Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. This is a school board workshop, and the time is 1 p.m. Sergeant at Arms, has the lobby been attended to? Yes. Thank you. There are 11 items on the agenda. 1, RSM statement of work, board members' questions, followed by board auditor discussion, our safety update, construction change order report, construction projects bi-monthly update, 25-26 student progression plan, policy review, briefing, first reading, phase 2 compensation, district strategic priorities, capital plan aligned with student growth, public comment, and go to the order of other business. Per board protocol, each board member should strive for 4 minutes for initial comment, 2 for follow-up, with a total of 10 minutes during today's discussions. We are going to begin this afternoon with RSM statement of work. Presenting to us this afternoon is Matthew Blondell, the director, and manager Jack Hughes. Thank you both for being here.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. You'll notice I got Jack here with me today. He's a new face for you all. Weiss and his wife welcomed a brand new baby boy last week, so he's off enjoying his time with his growing family. So we got Jack here today. But on your agenda for this evening, you have our statement of work, which was developed after our last meeting with you all back on August 5th. We talked through the potential audit plan, how we developed that in conjunction with the audit committee, and then you all basically approved for us to go ahead and create the statement of work based on that, and so that was attached to your agenda for this evening. And so we're here to just answer any questions that you may have regarding that statement of work before the meeting this evening.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions or comments at this time? None? Okay, I know that Mr. Persons and Ms. Jordan are not online right now, so we're going to continue on. Jack, I'm sorry it wasn't more exciting.
The best type of meeting.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to the discussion of the board auditor, led by our board chair, Samuel Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is going to just be a quick update and kind of where we're at with the board auditor. Dr. Johnson and Ms. Rivera are joining us over there on that dais, so I appreciate that. And I think they'll kind of give a quick overview, but where we're at, we were last we'd kind of had a kind of full discussion on this. We were trying to find additional applicants at that time. Part of it was human resources, which I'd agreed with and we agreed, was to kind of make sure that we have a bigger applicant pool so we're not just interviewing 3 people. We've obviously had some updates to that. So is it all right if I turn it over to you, Dr. Johnson and Ms. Rivera?
Sure.
Kind of give where we're at and what you're looking in order to expand upon the search.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead? Hi, good afternoon. So we have expanded the search per your request, and what we did differently this time is we reached out to the City of Cape Coral because they've had a lot of experience with the recruitment and hiring of auditors. So we have advertised it on some new avenues there, and we are currently accepting applications, and we do have a few more applicants than we've had last time, brand new applicants. So we are generating a different pool this time around, and it's currently still advertised.
Could you also explain the other advertisement locations that you're trying to attract this auditor at?
Yep, sure. So we actually expanded to the Association of Local Government Auditors. That's where we had not previously advertised before, but that was somewhere that the City of Cape Coral highly encouraged us to go through. We've also done some paid advertisements, just boosted up our advertisements through our traditional media, which is like LinkedIn or Indeed. So that seems to be helping in our search as far as we're seeing different names come through this time.
And I will turn it, I appreciate that. As I said, at this point, we do not have 3 applicants. I believe we're at 1 at the moment, if I recall. So this is the genesis behind this, making sure, and I appreciate Dr. Johnson, Ms. Rivera, going through and trying to find some additional outlets, especially utilizing the city of Cape Coral and going into the fields themselves. I think that's very important. So, and as we kind of talked about, we just need to make sure, obviously, that we have an applicant pool and that, we all want one, it seems, at least from the board has told us last time, but make sure we take the time to find the right person. So if I can turn it back over to Madam Chair, if anyone obviously has any questions or follow-ups or concerns.
Board members, any questions, follow-ups? Mr. Ribble?
Yeah, what's the timeline on something like this? When are we going to close the applicant pool?
I think a lot of it, and I can confer obviously human resource, I think it's going to depend on how many applicants we get. I mean, it's obviously been a bit of an issue with that. So how long do we have the current advertisements up for?
Sure, so the current advertisements are for 30 days, and so we started it on August 13th. So we do have the opportunity to extend those ads because we are coming up to that 30-day mark. So if we don't see the right candidates, if we want to expand it, we can certainly do that and advertise. The recommendation would be for another 30 days.
And what I can do as liaison on this, I will continue, and I've kept in contact with HR. Ms. Rivera, really appreciate all your hard work and all the questions we're able to answer. I will continue to provide updates to the board when stuff comes in.
Nothing? Okay.
Okay, so at this point, as I said, I will just continue as liaison for this position, continue to provide updates and work with HR, and if there's anything, please, I would encourage, obviously, to reach out to Human Resources. So, thank you both. I appreciate all your help.
Thank you both. Thank you, Chair Fisher. We now have our safety update. Dave Newland will be presenting to us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board. Superintendent Dr. Denise Carlin and our Board Attorney Kathy Dupree-Bruno. We're here today to talk about training overall, but a lot of it's going to be a concentration on transportation training. I also have with me the Executive Director of Transportation, Jerry McKinney. He's also going to talk about the training we did this summer and current training and future training as well, including transportation. So one of the things we looked at, we have a lot of things we've done differently this year. We have new training for the first time. We have things we've done that we do ongoing training, and then things we want to do moving forward. So one of the things we did this summer was we looked at active shooter training for our bus drivers and bus driver attendants, de-escalation techniques, and going through different scenarios. So I'm going to show you a video of some of the things they went through this summer. Here we go. Any volume? Let's see. Oops. Let me just adjust the volume real quick. There we go. All right, I think I have it.
Wait. You know what? Sorry, something got changed around.
Go ahead. Well, unfortunately, we might maybe hear a little bit, but this gives you an idea of the training they did over the summertime. They're going to work on it, but basically give the drivers an opportunity to really look at what can happen actually on the bus with an active shooter type of training. Oh, we're going to try it again. Hold on one second. Let's see. All right, now we're good. Thank you. We talk about a lot of times, we look at hardening schools, safety for our school sites, which is obviously very important. But the one thing today we're looking at too is if we have somebody that boards a bus forcibly or you have a shooter on the bus, what we're here today for the next few days is training bus drivers, bus attendants of awareness, what to look for, and how to handle a situation on a bus if you have an active shooter. Part of what they go over is de-escalation techniques. Part of it is knowing what to look for, how to deal with a situation like that that's safe but also takes care of the situation. So just to give you an idea a little bit, the drivers, that was their first time going through active shooter type of training, de-escalation techniques. I know I'm going to let Jared kind of talk a little bit about what the experience was, the feedback from the drivers, but we all know that one of the vulnerabilities we look at for our schools is our buses. When buses leave campus with students, what are we doing to train them, protect them when they leave campus?
And our drivers absolutely loved the training. A lot of them were very excited to actually try something new. Not that we would ever want any of these kind of situations to happen, but to actually know and have an idea of how to respond in that event. And they're very excited and thankful for it.
There's a couple other things. So you'll see there a little bit, just talks about defensive driving, how to maneuver driving if you have something on your bus. So that they're actually, we did this at one of the tarmacs or parking lot locations at FDLE. They let us use their parking lot for training. The other thing, this is our first time actually doing a full-scale exercise this summer as well, a lot of you were there, was a reunification day training we had at Lee Civic Center. We have our policy, the manual that we look at to follow. But the big thing now was putting that into place and seeing how that would work. We had all the school administration there. We had all our law enforcement partners there. Give us an idea really of what we need to work on, how we can improve moving forward. It was a good event to learn. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. So obviously moving forward, this allows us to improve our training moving forward, do things different, make some changes to our current plan. But we learned a lot from that day, things we may need and things we need to change moving forward. We've actually added 2 or 3 more locations for reunification sites since this training, meeting with the chief in Sanibel and Cape Coral. So we're expanding our locations that we can use at any time we want to for reunification. And this just shows some of the things that we did in the Lee Civic Center. Again, it was a great exercise, great time to train, learn about the different aspects, the stages, the process, when students and staff are getting to a reunification site, to when parents or family arrive as well. How do we reunite the student with the child with the parent? So we went through all those little factors and conversations about the what ifs, the difficulties you may be challenged with. Somebody that may not have an photo ID, for example, issues you may deal with at a reunification site. So it was very good training. The other thing I'm going to have Jared talk about too is we did some other things as well this summer for bus driver training that I'll let Jared talk about as well.
So this summer we decided to do some different training with the employees because sometimes doing the same thing over and over and repetitive, it just, people just come and just, it really didn't take anything away. So this summer, we decided to partner with academics, with HR, with health services and ESE to truly give hands-on training to all of our employees to understand that, there are ways to de-escalate behavior. There's different ways to deal with things, to create an environment where students feel safe and happy and they want to be there. So just with doing that, also giving them a collaboration within the district so that they know that there are resources available to them. So it was very, very nice. We set it up at South Fort Myers High School. We had 5 different classrooms and had them rotate like on a bell schedule. They absolutely loved it. And not only was it very informative, but they also had a lot of time to talk with different departments and get a lot of hands-on training with them.
So right now, as all things we're also been doing as well was working with the state attorney's office. Some things or questions come up, for example, when things happen on the buses, unfortunately, when somebody forcibly boards the bus, for example, what statutes are out there that exist that protect the drivers and protect the students? What can we do as an organization to make sure that they're protected moving forward? So we've had those conversations with the state attorney's office. We've provided those statutes to all our local law enforcement partners and talked about that process moving forward, how these things be handled. So we all have a good idea now. We've all had that conversation about what exists, what violations could happen. Most that will happen on a bus, for example, most of these are felonies that would occur. If you force your way on a bus, it is a felony charge. So future training. So this is, again, I mentioned before, where do we go from here? We continue to do our ongoing training at active shooter. We always move at different locations so we can use the actual site as an example. We're going to incorporate that with our reunification at different school sites. We're looking to partner with law enforcement on bus training as well. If something was to happen, so the drivers and law enforcement have that communication. Each knows what to do. They know the expectations of the driver, the attendants. So we're going to partner moving forward with law enforcement as well. You'll see tactical communications. One of the big things that you can look at as far as it's not just your presence, but your verbal communication skills. So we're going to work on enhancing those with different parts of the organization on how to handle a situation if you are confronted by somebody, maybe a suspect on a bus, or a situation that you can avoid anything physical, but using just your verbal commands as well. So I'll stand by for any comments or questions about our future training or ongoing training.
Dr. Carlin?
Yes, well, first of all, just thank you to Mr. Newland and Mr. McKinney. They have been working extremely hard in the world of transportation this fall, and just really appreciate all of your work through the summer and through the fall. I also want to tip my hat to both of them as leaders and being very proactive. There was a number of years ago where I remember there was a very comprehensive training for our bus drivers, and I know every single summer they do receive training, but I really love what Mr. McKinney said about the partnership with our divisions and making sure that there's a multi-divisional approach to it, making sure that our drivers have everything that they need, and then establishing relationships across our districts so that they kind of know who does what, and we're able to all support our drivers because they deserve that. So just thank you, hats off to your proactive leadership, and just very thankful for both of you. So turn it back to the board.
Ms. Shaviano?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you to you both. I know I spoke to one of the groups when they were here for one of the training days, and they were excited to actually go and participate, which was great to see. And I was actually happy to see that was happening too, because we do think about our schools and what we're doing there, but our transportation is transporting our most important things as well. So to see them and be able to know how to effectively deal with a situation, it puts them at ease as well, because they are out there transporting our kids. So I'm happy that we're doing that. I'm happy they're able to get that training and support, and thank you for taking the initiative and doing those extra things so they feel safe and secure doing their job, because what they do isn't easy every day, transporting all our kids. So thank you for that, and I appreciate it and look forward to the rest of the trainings that you guys are going to do. Thanks.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Thank you. So I love hearing the collaborative piece of training. That's awesome because you learn from others. So I think that's really great, and they kind of get in there and the bus drivers are able to see what they do, how so important it is because they're key to getting our students to school and then for them to learn. I mean, they're just they're the key role to everything for us. So I appreciate that. I do have a couple questions regarding how's the new Safe Start initiative working with the schedule change? Because I'm really curious about that. I'm excited to see the information and the data on that. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that? Thank you.
Okay. As of right now, like everything, it has its challenges, but it's definitely, every week we are seeing an increase in our on-time arrival. We've gone from being, I think it was like 70-something% in the morning and 60 in the afternoon, to now we're in the 90s and close to the 80s in the afternoons. So we are definitely on the rise, getting there, sorting. So it's doing good right now. I would say it's definitely doing good.
Great. I knew it would be a work in progress. I mean, especially at the beginning of the school year, it always is. But this was a whole new level of everything being new for our bus drivers. So hopefully they're hanging in there, and so is our students and staff and teachers and everything else, because it's a domino effect, So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Giovanelli, for bringing that up. I think it was a change that needed to happen, but it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, and it's a work in progress. Thank you so much for all you do. I know that you have a job that wakes you up incredibly early. I do want to know what a happy bus is. And I would like to ride the bus.
Any bus that I'm driving, right?
Yeah.
No, a happy bus is just creating a culture and environment where kids feel safe and actually respected, and just creating a safe space for students. That's what the happy bus is, teaching the drivers how to maintain their attitude, their tone, and just make sure that the students feel safe with them and on their ride.
Okay, well, I'm going to take your invitation and ride on a happy bus here very soon. So thank you so much. Mr. Llewellyn, thank you also for all that you do. I know the collaborative effort with the two of you are creating an A+ team, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to our construction change order report presented by Tina Silcox and Melissa Rivera.
Good afternoon, board members, Superintendent Dr. Carlin, and School Board Attorney Kathy DeBoy-Bruno. Thank you for the opportunity to present the July 2025 monthly change order report and the construction project bi-monthly update. As you can see on the front page, we have the summary of each type of change order that we do in the construction department. The first report is direct material purchase change orders in the amount of $4,473,276.41. Of that total, we returned $253,474.35 back to the districts in tax savings. Report number 2 is non-direct material purchase change orders, totaling the amount of $766,745.17. The total amount was returned back to the district as unused funds. Report number 3, contingency adjustment change orders, totaled $575,898.36. The total returned to the district for the month of July was $1,020,219.52. If you go to the next 2 pages, this provides a detailed explanation of each change order. We had 4 direct material purchase change orders, 1 each for Cape Coral Technical College expansion, Hector Caffaretta Jr. K-8 rebuild, Bonita Springs Elementary renovation, and Spring Creek Elementary HVAC renovation. We had 7 non-direct material purchase change orders. These change orders consisted of 2 time extensions, 4 unused funds, and 1 increase to the contract, adding a portable restroom at Hector A. Caffaretta Jr. temporary portable campus. And we also had 4 contingency adjustments for unforeseen conditions at East Zone Portable relocation, Cypress Lake High School ROTC Tower, and Riverdale High School. These contingency adjustments were done within the total project cost line item. Any questions on the July 2025 change order report?
Board members, any questions? You can continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? Moving on to the bi-monthly construction project update. First up is Bayshore K-8 expansion. The purchase order and notice to proceed has been issued to the construction management company to begin work. We are currently mobilizing. The construction trailer is on site and the temporary fence has been installed. BBBB Pre-K-8, better known as Quad 8. Oh, sorry.
Can I just make one comment? I just wanted to point out that as the previous board members asked, we did add the funding source to the slide, so you will see the funding sources on there.
Quad 8, or BBBB Pre-K-8, 100% drawings were received on September 14th. We are currently in the permit process with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Bonita Springs Elementary rebuild remodel. We have approximately 5 feet of CMU walls up on building number 20. Building 20 houses the administration, media, and 16 classrooms. Cape Coral Technical College, foundations are complete. Casting beds are being constructed for precast panels to be poured. We are hoping to start standing the precast walls in November. Cypress Lake Middle School rebuild. If you've driven by there, you can see the progress. It's amazing. Almost half of the precast panels walls are standing for the 3-story classroom building. Steel is flying and underground utilities are being installed. Hector A. Caffaretta Jr. K-8 rebuild. Buildings 3 and 6 have precast panel walls standing with roofing in progress. Building 3 houses the classrooms and building 6 is the centralized energy plant. Elementary L and Elementary M.
Madam Chair? I have a question on Hector, and this may be for Madam Superintendent, and I don't need the answer now. Do we know how far off the MOU is down the line for the city of Cape Coral?
It's my understanding that that's still in progress. Mr. Neese, would you care to weigh in?
Yes, we have a draft that we have presented to them for review, and we are actively pursuing, discussing that draft and or getting their concurrence with the draft so that we can get it to you all for approval. We're just, actively pursuing contact with them, and once we have established the contact and gotten the feedback that we need, we will get that up to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Elementary L and Elementary M, we have 100% drawings on both projects, and we are awaiting the Army Corps permits. High School NNN. The substantial completion has been moved to June of 2027, and we are waiting on the Florida Wildlife Services consultation release, which will allow Southwest Florida Water Management to complete the permitting process.
Can I just pause right here? Can you just say the address, like where this school is going to be located, which property or parcel?
It's on the corner of Joel and Tuckahoe.
Okay, thank you. And then if you go back to the L, can you just let the public know which parcel of land this is?
L and OO are on Highway 82 and what will be the LECO connection.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted the public to know which site is which. Thank you.
So OO is, we're back to NNN, sorry. High school NNN, substantial completion has been moved to June of 2027. We are waiting on the Florida Wildlife Services consultation to be released, which will allow South Florida Water Management to complete the permitting process, and we will present the total project cost to you next month, October 7th, for approval. OO Middle School is also next to Elementary L on 82 and the Alico Extension. We have also received 100% drawings on that project, and we are waiting for the Army Corps permit. Riverdale High School renovation, we have received the substantial completion for Phase 2BA. We received that substantial completion on August 29th. They have 30 days to complete the punch list, and that will be September 29th. We are currently gathering closeout documents so that we can begin the audit process. Veterans Park Academy of the Arts HVAC controls are close to being completed. Till Middle School renovations are complete, and the certificate for the Black Box Theater will be received by the end of this week. Any questions? Oh, sorry. And the next sheet is our all of our projects and their schedules. You can look on that and see our substantial completions, the estimated substantial completions. We have a total of 39 on-schedule projects, 2 behind schedule, 2 on hold, and 4 that have drawings ready to be built after we get the permits, and 5 in the audit process. Any questions?
Ms. Giovanelli.
The Black Box Theater, so when is that, I saw when it was supposed to be completed, and when are we going to have like, usually like a little, groundbreaking or, ribbon cutting, yeah. Do we know?
That has not been scheduled at this time, and I'll reach out and get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ribble.
Yeah, could you just repeat which 2 projects are behind schedule?
Yes, that will be the Trafalgar Elementary and Middle parent pickup traffic improvements. We gave the schools 3 options to choose from, and they have tried those options and selected, and now we will complete those drawings and move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The only thing, I don't know if Superintendent, I know we have a couple of pieces of property that are just a little, they're a hot topic, in the community. So maybe my suggestion moving forward is when we have a BBB, an OO, an NNN, perhaps there could be just an address just for the public to be able to point into, just to understand where that actually is located. Like, for example, I know the former Innovation School, maybe they could just add the actual location so that the people in that part of the zone kind of know where they're talking about. And then we got NNN and L and O.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
we'd be happy to do that, actually.
Just to
on
differentiate
all of
where
our
everything
slides,
is.
actually.
I wrote a note to
Yeah.
add
Okay.
that on
Yeah.
there, so I gotcha.
Right, I would
Thank
say
you.
we would add that for all of ours, just so the public is aware where these properties are located, and so thank you very much for the suggestion.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you so much for the
you.
work behind this. All right, next up, we have the 2025-2026 Student Progression Plan. This afternoon, we are going to welcome Dr. Nathan Shaker and Lori Brooks to present.
Apologize, we just had to catch the title real quickly. Good afternoon, Superintendent. Good afternoon, Board. Thank you for hearing us today. We're here to share any changes to the student progression plan, as well as the secondary course catalog. We'll give you a brief overview here today, but also included was actually the student progression plan and the course catalog redlined, a redline version of it to review. No substantial changes this year, but we will make sure you understand a couple of the adjustments that were made. The student progression plan, it contains two sections. One is what's actually considered the student progression plan. In this area, we've adjusted it in certain places for legislative updates, as well as aligning it with state requirements. Following the student progression plan, you'll see the secondary course catalog. This gets updated every year to reflect the most recent offerings. Every year, the state typically comes out with some courses that we would call daggered, that need to be removed, or the descriptions need to be updated. And you'll see some changes in the course catalog related to aligning with the state's catalog. Secondary course catalog, academic policies and course aligned, they're aligned to state statutes, State Board of Education rules, Florida Department of Education updates. So as those come in every year, we need to update our student progression plan to align. We need to align it to the state course code directory, as well as making sure that our focus scheduling system and all of our schools that are assigning courses are aligned to everything all the way up to those statutes and education rules. One of the main updates that we want to draw your attention to is third grade retention rules have been adjusted slightly. This did go into effect last year, but the formal FLDOE rule came out a little bit after the approval of our student progression plan. So this year we've added it to the student progression plan. And really it reads that a retained third grade student is eligible for mid-year promotion if the student scores a level 2 or above on PM1 of the grade 3 FAST ELA reading assessment. And there is evidence the student is progressing sufficiently to master appropriate grade 4 reading skills. So really this is an opportunity for our students now that they take a PM1. Remember at the beginning of the year, many of them are engaged in it this week even. They take a PM2, usually that happens around December or January, depending on the grade level. And then they take a PM3, PM standing for progress monitoring. And that's the summative assessment at the end. Now, if we have a retained third grader, if they take an assessment at the beginning of third grade, and they get a 2 or higher on that, we can move them to 4th grade. We don't have to have them redo all of 3rd grade. They've shown mastery with that level 2 at PM1. So this is now built into our student progression plan. Yep. I think he's got it.
Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Shaker, so you said on that for mid-year, so would it be, so could you essentially under this, as soon as they get that PM1 result back, move up at that point? It wouldn't have to hold till December or January?
No. The term mid-year promotion is any promotion that does not occur at the end of the year, at the start of the year. So mid-year, really, we try to move them as quickly as possible, within 10 days of the assessment.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Ms. Giovanelli.
So my question really is more about the data. So we'll be monitoring that. I would love an update, I don't know, to see how many students that actually, impacts. So, is that something possible?
Absolutely. It will take a few weeks just to get through all of PM1 testing. We have to do the makeups and
Right.
get them there, but I will put it into the weekly board update. I can give you an update on the number of retained third graders that were promoted because of PM1 performance.
And then if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to also tell me the number that did not meet that criteria.
I can definitely share it as a percentage.
Yeah, that would
And
be
we can
great.
do
Thank
that
you.
by school even, Ms. Giovanelli.
Gotcha.
We got a pretty good data machine these days.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. There was one middle school update we wanted to draw your attention to. There's a line that said reading instruction is required for all middle school students in grades 6 through 8. We did remove this from the student progression plan, but we wanted to clarify what it means. Previously, this was a district-level mandate. It was a district-based decision. We're required to provide reading instruction to our level 1 and 2 students. We have been providing global perspectives as a reading course for our 3, 4, and 5 students. Many of our schools are still providing global perspectives right now, but we did want to provide them with some opportunities to expand upon enrichment for our level 3, 4, and 5 readers. So we have some schools that are looking at other opportunities for enrichment. They may put global perspectives to the side. They may offer other courses within the ACE catalog. Some of them have kind of ventured into offering high school biology as an enrichment opportunity. So we have opened up the ability for our middle schools to offer a variety of enrichment opportunities to our level 3 through 5 students. Do you want to do high school?
Sure. Thank you. High school updates this year as a result of House Bill 1105. There is a new 4th opportunity for students to waiver the HOPE course. 2 years of marching band shall satisfy the 1 credit requirement in PE, otherwise known as HOPE in this case, or the 1 credit requirement in performing arts. So now students have this 4th opportunity to waiver HOPE should they choose to do so. This bill also amended requirements for the high school diploma by removing certificates of completion, and that starts this school year. There will be guidance forthcoming by January 1st, 2026 from the Department of Education. And this is one of those statutory updates where what we do know is they've removed certificates of completion, and then we wait for the DOE to provide the actual guidance of what that looks like. It also requires Bright Futures volunteer service hours to change just a little bit. As you may know, there are 4 scholarship programs in Bright Futures. They require 75 volunteer service hours or 100. We have 2 other scholarships, the Gold Seal Vocational and the Gold Seal Cape Scholars, that required only 35 hours, and they have been updated now, starting with students entering grade 9 in the 24-25 school year. So our sophomores this year and younger will be required to actually achieve 75 hours of volunteer service hours. So they have leveled up those requirements so that now all 4 versions of the Bright Future Scholarship reflect the same requirements for volunteer service hours. We had some GED updates this year to the student progression plan, and they're actually reflective of, as Dr. Shaker said earlier, a State Board of Education rule that did not have an adoption until November of last school year. So we missed the deadline then to put it into this codified document by the board. It does not mean we did not put it into place, it just means it was not in our document. And we've now updated the GED requirements. Basically, we have followed them since last year, and we just updated the language. And it reflects the removal of the GED preparation course for a student if they fail to achieve a passing score on a practice test. Certain weeks of GED prep were mandated, and now it is up to the student and parent if they would like to do the GED preparation courses. It's no longer mandated, it's recommended.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but really quick, going back to the Bright Future Scholarship, Ms. Brooks, I know we keep saying volunteer, but can you clarify that it's also volunteer plus work now? Because it used to be one or the other. Can you just
Absolutely.
clarify that.
So the volunteer service hour thresholds that I just discussed were based on the 4 different levels of scholarship. However, on any of those 4 types of Bright Futures, students could opt to submit 100 paid work hours or a combination of volunteer service and paid work hours, which at that time the threshold still is at 100 across the board. So the variation we have is with the volunteer service hours.
Thank you. I know that change was made while some of us were on the board and not while some newer members would be on the board. So I just wanted to make sure that our board was aware that it used to be one or the other. Now it's a combination of both. But thank you for clarifying for the public.
Absolutely.
At this time, any comments or board discussion we welcome.
Any comments or questions, board members? Ms. Shaviano.
Thank you for the presentation. I did have a follow-up on the certificates of completion. I know we're waiting till January, and I had a few people that I know reach out in regards to some concern because that goes against what students with disabilities are usually those that are impacted. Is the understanding that they're going to be replaced with something else, not necessarily called a certificate of a completion, or do we have any idea of what that looks like for graduation for those students?
Yes, so the language in the bill references post-secondary opportunities such as access to career certificate programs, and this is where we're actually leaning in and looking forward to the guidance because we believe that it may provide our students with additional beneficial pathways than the traditional certificate of completion did. I'd also like to address, related to our students with disabilities, the vast majority of our certificates of completion are provided to students that fail to achieve one or both must-pass assessment scores for the standard diploma. And our students with disabilities, because they have access to an assessment waiver, frequently earn the standard high school diploma. And I know that was a piece on the media that we've worked really hard to ensure we educate families that that assessment waiver actually mitigates this for a lot of our students with disabilities because they are able to achieve the standard diploma. So hopefully that's good news to those families.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarification because I saw a lot of the information come out. So look forward to a little bit more information in January and how we plan on approaching that with our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
The only thing I kind of want to tip my hat to Jennifer Sillick. I was able to attend Estero High School last Friday. I spent about an hour at the school. Incredibly impressive environment that's being created over there. One of the things that they are working on in their media department, and they're, I mean, I highly recommend anybody go check this media department out. It's top notch. But one of the things they're doing as far as coursework, which was back on one of the beginning slides you were talking about courses, they are actually having the students make commercials on courses that are available to students who may not know that these even exist in their high school. And I thought that was a fabulous idea because students listen to their peers almost more than they listen to their, not peers. So I wanted to tip my hat to her because I thought that's a great out-of-the-box thinking idea to advertise what your school is offering. So perhaps it would be one of those those special courses that are, whether they're aligned to something that they would take post-secondary education, into college or trade. I just thought it was a great idea. So I just wanted to share all the wonderful things that our schools are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the policy review briefing, first reading. Our presentation will be from Ms. Kathy Dupay-Bruno and Benny Brophy. We'll just give them a few minutes to move from one side of the room to the other.
Afternoon, board members. You've had an opportunity to review the policies. Are there any comments, questions, suggestions?
Board members, any comments, questions, or suggestions regarding these policies? Mr. Fisher?
Policy 131.1. I'm just bringing it up myself. Technical corrections? Whenever you're ready, Madam Attorney.
Yes, sir.
This was the last minute one, my apologies. I know we usually go over this. Technical corrections, I know by statute a lot of that changed. My only question is, because we talk about, let's say there's a name, typo or anything like that. The last part where it just says technical changes and corrections to citations or grammatical, typographical, or similar errors do not affect the substance of the policy. So you're saying you don't think again, is this Neola?
Yes.
So you don't think we need anything, again, pointing out like position names and changes? I know that originally was in it.
Yeah, so.
For a plain reading standpoint.
So it's going to be substantive. So if we're just changing, one of the ones that's very common is when we change our person who is responsible for equity complaints, and that's just a name change. That does not require, that's not a substantive change. But let's say that it's going to be something a little bit deeper where we're actually changing some of the responsibilities or something like that affiliated with that position. I would consider that a substantive change.
And I know I'm looking more, I didn't know if it's worthwhile in that one to maintain an example or two.
Okay.
Like names or something like that. Like, again, the name of the position or something like that.
Okay, we can add that.
Don't mind me. And then...
Did you have any more, Mr. Fisher?
Yes, if that's all right,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Going to 5136 for illustrative purposes.
Yes.
I just wanted to highlight, and I know this is already practiced, but more just for the community standpoint, and I know this is just a first reading, going down to the exception standpoint for wireless communication devices, because I've heard a bit about this, and I know it's already in practice, but talking about, let's say we have medical devices, like a diabetes pump or something like that, which I know is already covered, but just to let the community know, and I know this will be, assuming we all pass this, obviously going to policy. I just wanted to highlight that, and I appreciate that being specifically laid out over there.
Yes, absolutely. So if there's any medical conditions and there's a doctor's note as to why you need to have your phone in the classroom, we will definitely abide by that. And of course, if there's anything in your IEP.
Okay. I do have another one going down to gifts. Remind me what.
That one is 7230, Mr. Fisher.
So we had talked about setting a threshold for what should be board approval. My suggestion to the board would be set the same threshold we do for anything else we do with the board and superintendent of being $50,000 or above. I don't know if my colleagues have any thoughts on that.
And just for clarification to what Mr. Fisher is speaking of, this policy is the ability to approve any gifts that are received on behalf of the school district. So I'm requesting that the board give me some direction in terms of what that value amount should be. And Mr. Fisher is saying the same threshold of $50,000 as for expenditures. So this would be the superintendent being able to just accept a gift on behalf of the school board.
Any comments on this? Mr. Ribble?
Yeah, well, what's the number we're using at the ethics training? Isn't it under $100 or no?
Well, this is going to be a little different.
Yeah,
The number for the ethics training, superintendent can receive personal gifts up to $100, board members $50. This would be a gift to the school district as a whole. So it'll be most likely.
Property.
It could be a gift of land, it could be a gift of, this month we're going to comp you so much for food for your seminar, so different things like that on behalf of the school district itself. So a little different than the ethics responsibilities you have. Yes?
Ms. Giovanelli?
What is best practices? What are other districts, what do they do?
So I will tell you that we did some research with regards to other districts. They're not as clear. Some don't even have a number. I can tell you that Miami-Dade is 50,000. But it's really hard to determine from the other districts because not all of them have a similar policy and a lot of them don't have a number.
So could this be something such as, I'm sorry, Ms. Giovanelli, did you get your question yet? I didn't mean to interrupt. So could this be something like, I see equipment, could this be someone donates a $49,000 golf cart to a football program here in the district? Like,
Absolutely.
that's what all this falls under, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It could be land, it could be
Okay.
equipment.
Mr. Fisher?
My reasoning for the $50,000 was any other purchasing authority by the superintendent, that's the same level. I figured we'd keep internal consistency at that standpoint, and I figured it was a easy number that satisfies both.
I agree. Mr. Ribble?
Wouldn't the purpose of this statute, though, or this policy, prevent folks from buying influence within a district?
Well,
That's really what this is for, so I think you got to be careful if you put a big number in there. Suppose you have a developer that donates, he wants to give you $100,000 because he wants to bid on a $3 million school. That could be a conflict.
So, very good point, Mr. Ribble. So we do have specific policies that would address conflict of interest, and we do have, of course, Chapter 112 that specifically talks about the ethical responsibilities and, of course, anything dealing with procurement and those types of things, very, very, very clear. So I think this one is more in terms of if somebody, let's say Publix decides that I'm going to provide you with 100,000 balloons to 10 schools for graduation, and is the superintendent allowed to accept that if it's over a certain amount of money? Or if it's more than that amount of money that the board gives direction, then the board needs to know about it and the board needs to approve it. So it's something like that. Or if somebody decides that I'm going to give you this land. Or if a developer says, I do want to be able to gift you this much, certain things do have to be approved or accepted, and that's what we're trying to figure out from the board in terms of what's that number that you want.
Mr. Fisher?
Thank you. I was just, there's Mr. Ribble just commenting on it. There's already a process the superintendent and her team would already be checking, just as they do for any purchases under $50,000. So up to the $50,000 would be, the onus would be on the superintendent and her staff then to review these. So it would be going through, however the process review happens for our superintendent. This just means if it's over that, then the board should get involved. It's not, there'll still be review.
So board members, do you, can we at least say 50,000 and below as a gift to add to policy? This is, again, the first reading. Ms. Giovanelli?
My concern would only be the transparency aspect of it and oversight to make sure that we are brought back in. Because I know when some purchases are made that are right at the threshold of the 50,000, and I can name it, one was a tanker truck, that we didn't find out about it until later when it was a problem. So I don't know, how do we avoid, and that's kind of separate from this, but how do we make sure that we're being apprised of something of that nature, of a gift?
So the board speaks through its policies. Its direction is through its policies. So this is why we're asking for that number. If you're not comfortable with 50,000, then the board can have a discussion and try to determine what number it is comfortable with. The only thing I would caution, you may have multiple $100 or $50 or $200 gifts that I don't think the board really wants to know about all of those minimal types of contributions. So the question is, what is the board's appetite in terms of how much are you willing to allow the superintendent to have the authority to accept on your behalf? That's really what the question is.
Dr. Carlin?
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair. So 50,000, first of all, we're always benchmarking ourselves against what the best in class do. And I heard Miami-Dade. I did not hear other districts in terms of the dollars. What I would say is 50,000 is manageable. And let me share with you the practical aspects of this. And Ms. Dupree-Bruno just started to speak to it a moment ago. We have schools out there, particularly our high schools, that receive donations of equipment for career and technical academies, whether it be old cars, HVAC equipment, things like that. So certainly 50,000 feels like the right number, just because I don't want you to get in the position of, we get a car donated and it's an older car, it's $8,000, we need to bring that here. Well, we're going to be at this table approving a whole lot of those types of things because we have a very generous community who supports career and technical education. And I don't think that's really the intention here. So again, I would lean on best in class. Miami-Dade would be one. Certainly we'd want to emulate. Again, Ms. Dupree-Bruno brought up numerous situations, 18 years of leading schools. I can tell you we received donations, gift cards for children to go out and purchase school supplies. I mean, the list is endless. So to me, 50,000 feels right, not only because we have one of our districts that's best in class, but also the practical aspect of that would be very appropriate. So just wanted to weigh in as superintendent and share with you the practical aspects of this policy.
Thank you.
So board members, are we okay with moving ahead with the number 50,000? Can we agree? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nodding
50,000?
heads. Yes, ma'am. Do you have your direction?
I see Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Fisher.
Two more, is that all right?
Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely.
Is that all right? Sorry to the new board members.
Yeah, of course.
I love reviewing policy, as Madam Attorney knows. So. Can we go to the name, image, likeness? It's 243106.
Yes.
And that is, again, so that is just now, because you had indicated we had the prior policy from
Right.
last year, so this just mirrors Neola then? And
Yeah,
what other
so-
districts are doing?
So our original policy was one that was drafted by us prior to Neola issuing a NIL policy. And once they issued that, we reviewed it, and it was very, very similar to ours. So we recommend adopting the language from Neola. And the reason we do that is when there is a law change, Neola will provide us with an update, and it will follow their already written policy, and we can make sure that we're in line with that. In addition, Neola will guarantee its policy, so if somebody decides to sue us based on that policy, there is a guarantee that they will defend us. So that's why we're recommending that we go ahead and adopt that language.
Okay, thank you.
And one more, you had a few more?
Yes.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Mr. Fisher.
There's 5514 board responsibility on bicycles. And this might not, I just want to put this in the ear maybe of Madam Superintendent. So this is saying, for example, bicycles, and I know this was amending, it was already in there, electronic scooters. So anything that happens to them is not the responsibility of the board and the district, correct? Because there's been a little bit of, I've either heard from parents or well as administrators, they talk about, let's say, the electric scooters being out in the rain or something like that. I just was bringing that up. It's just something I've heard. I know it doesn't directly, but I know it kind of is addressed in our policy. I just wanted to mention that, so. Okay. Last one, and then I'm done, I swear. 5600. And can we go to page 2 on 5600? Or at least page 2 to us. I don't know if it's, yep, right there. I just want to highlight, and I believe that's by the new statute, if you can kind of just review that, Attorney Bruno, briefly, the changes regarding how principals and, or how teachers and discipline in the schools are being backed up now through state statute?
Yeah, so this is really, it's just a continuation of the Teachers' Bill of Rights, where teachers now have, and have had, some authority in terms of the behaviors in their classrooms, and outlines the steps that are necessary to be taken with regards to that.
Madam Chair, may I
Sure,
read one line
please.
from it? One that really stands out to me. The principal or designee must give full consideration to the recommendation for discipline made by a teacher or other member of the instructional staff or bus driver when making a decision regarding student referral for discipline. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely, yes. And then I will say that I know that academic services and conversations with our chief officer, Nathan Shaker, that processes and relating to this policies are in place to ensure that that does occur and that the teacher's voice and bus driver's voice is heard when these things take place with regards to discipline and referrals.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Thank you, board members, for going through me with that.
No worries. Dr. Carlin.
Yes, and I just wanted to piggyback on the comments. Remember, we have spoken before about the importance of management of student behavior as it pertains to teacher retention. So on the campaign trail, just a reminder, one of the things we talked about with teachers is what drives you from the profession. And certainly student behavior is an opportunity for us to improve in that area, and not that, the children come as they are, right? So it's really more about our processes, and my vision as superintendent is for us to have somebody in each school that has exemplary performance in terms of helping to manage student behavior and to redirect and to do all of those things. So that is where we're heading as a district, and I know want to publicly call out Dr. Shaker, Dr. Tim, and all of the team members that are working to support our teachers in their classrooms, because student learning is what we're about. And whenever we have student behavior that impedes that, we want to make sure that we address that in a timely fashion and an appropriate fashion. So very supportive of this policy. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Shaviano, sorry.
No, you're fine. I didn't have anything that was on here, but I did want to bring up one of our bylaws, which is 0164.1, which is meeting location and board member participation. So this is in regards to obviously attending and being able to participate in meetings if you're not available. In these meetings, it says members may vote in instances where if they are confined to their home or hospital due to illness or accident, or a situation when a board member's absence is due to death or serious illness of a family member, or in situations where they're required to be out of the county or due to a business commitment. I'm bringing this up more so because of the meeting that we had in June. Obviously, prior to me being elected in November, I had a family vacation planned, and since we only have so many meetings, I feel like even though it's one meeting, if you can make the meeting, you should be able to participate. So I did dial into that meeting, but was not able to vote. So I would like to bring that up for discussion. We are in a day of technology where we are able to dial in from anywhere, as we do have people join meetings from Teams. So I want to see or have a discussion in regards to those voting instances for members. And we can discuss that.
No, not at this time. You cannot. I'll let the attorney
Yeah, so
speak.
just
I'm
to
sorry.
clarify, so 0164.1 basically says that board members, you are able to vote if you are ill or if you are out for a business commitment. And I do believe it talks about hospital, if you're in the hospital or you have a family member in the hospital, there's an accident. That's what the policy under those circumstances is what the policy allows you to vote. If you are out because of a vacation or something else, the policy does not allow you to vote on anything, but obviously you can call in and participate in the meeting, but you're not able to vote. So I just need direction from the board as to whether or not you want that language changed to make it more flexible.
And I also just one thing as well, I don't know if there was any other statute that supports this or if this is strictly policy.
This one is policy. There is a statute that allows us to use telecommunication for board members to participate in action meetings and special meetings so long as there's a physical quorum.
Mr. Fisher?
I'd be willing to have the discussion, but I'm not willing at the moment to go forward in this meeting, at least, with any language change on that. So, member Juvenelli and member Langford Fleming, we went through this I think it was about 2 years ago, and we kind of went back and forth. We had a bit of a discussion on that regards to because we adjusted, or maybe it was longer ago, but the remote policy. So, again, I'm not opposed to discussing it. I believe we had also looked at other school districts and other municipalities, and this was very similar to what they do. So, but I'm willing to hear out anyone on that and willing to listen, so.
I would love to continue the discussion. I brought this up a couple years ago, and just to see what the statute was, like your first question. I feel as though our board meetings are public anyway, so should a vacation arise or something, I would not want to penalize one of our board members for spending time with their own family because it falls on a day of that we do have a meeting, and since we do only have one meeting a month, give or take, I don't think that it's, I think it's important that we each get that, not just to call in, but also to vote, and also because it's a public meeting. Now I know that shaded sessions are completely off the table. But I think that a conversation, this warrants a conversation with the board, perhaps when we have everyone back. Thank you for bringing it up. Board members, anything else regarding this or other policy? Oh, yes.
With regards to policies, I do have one. So just for clarification though, 0164.1 will hold, and then perhaps have some discussions in our one-on-ones, and then bring this back for the board to give me further direction.
Thank you.
Okay. 7105 is a site selection committee. And this one, originally we had 9 members, and this is on behalf of Miss Debbie Jordan, who's not able to attend today. She did ask me to share this with the board. Originally, we had 9 members on the site selection committee. 3 are being removed because we no longer have the EDAC committee, so that leaves us with 6. Her recommendation would be to have one more person added to that committee, so it's an odd number. So she would suggest perhaps getting somebody from ISOC to volunteer, but it's up to the board as to how you would like to proceed with that recommendation.
Board members, Ms. Giovanelli.
I have to thank Ms. Jordan for bringing this up, and thank you, Attorney Dupree Bruno. I actually agree, but I actually think as a board member, we should be able to pick someone as well. I think that definitely going from 9 to 6, I'm not going to be agreeing to that. And I think that we should have someone that's part of, for me, that would be part of some little bit of oversight that I have ability to do. And since there's been some issues with on the audit, I'm on the audit committee, and they actually complained about not having the construction advisory guiding some of this. At least then we would have a little say if each board member was able to have, appoint someone to this committee as well. Otherwise, we have no control over it at all, really. Thank you.
So, Ms. Giovanelli, just so that I'm clear, your recommendation would be for the board members to appoint somebody to the committee, or?
Like we used to appoint on these other, we have no appointments anymore. Well, except for like ISOC, audit, and what's the other one?
ISOC and audit.
Yeah, I think that's the only one, so we
DAC.
even appoint someone to. So yeah, there you go. I think that we should be able to appoint someone to this committee as well, regarding site selection, just to have, because we are all in separate districts, and then we have 2 all county seats. I think that gives, it makes it diverse somewhat, and have that, each district have a voice. So that would be my recommendation.
Ms. Giovanelli, I just want to clarify that I'm understanding also. So would you prefer it to be 7 on the board, or would you prefer it to be 13, like the 6 plus the ones we appoint?
Thank you.
I'm just asking.
6 plus what is
Okay.
appointed by the super. I don't want to take any power from the district. I want to have just a little, District 2 to have some representation.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to clarify. Thank
And
you.
a voice at the table.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Board members, do you have any comments or follow-up to Ms. Giovanelli's idea regarding this? I think an odd number, just because I think an odd number makes sense. I have no problem appointing from each one of our seats with our contacts. I mean, I know this is first reading, but Ms. Chaviano?
No, I agree with not doing the 6 and doing an odd. I actually sat on EDAC and I was on the site selection committee, so I see the value in having, as Ms. Giovanelli said, someone from each district. My only concern would be, I think there's been an issue in the past getting committee members for the appointments. So also kind of seeing us each having a spot, maybe it's 3 seats or 4 seats. I just know in the past it's been a little difficult to fill those seats as well. So I'm all for an odd number. I'm all for representation, but maybe like a staggered middle ground on that for sure. But I do see the value in that.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, just to make sure that the board understands, once you add board liaisons, you're changing the type of committee, right? So once this becomes more like a board advisory committee, because you have your own liaisons, this will become a sunshine committee. Right now, it's more of a staff committee, a superintendent committee that basically assists staff with the review of land purchases, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that.
Dr. Carlin.
Just for a point of clarification, I want to make sure we add to the conversation and that the board does approve every land acquisition. So I want to make sure it's clear for the public as well as the board that you do maintain oversight of that. If there's land that is selected and you reject that idea, then certainly you do have oversight with the ability to do that. And so this is just, basically folks that are weighing in prior to the acquisition of land. But again, you always have the final say on whether we proceed or not. So just wanted that point of clarification.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I'm comfortable going forward with 7, but yeah, I would not be in favor of adding anyone from the board, especially with any kind of the sunshine implications and the things we've dealt with before. I'd rather keep that separate from us. So but that's just my 2 cents.
Ms. Giovanelli?
So I understand where you're coming from, and I thank you, Superintendent, for weighing in, because that is important. My only concern is we have no one from the public on this committee. So, and we're already reaping, we're getting, a lot of heat regarding the NNN school. And so I think with at least someone from the public on it would help with, weighing in and giving that perspective that I don't believe that they don't feel it. The Alva people they don't feel that they were represented. And at least with someone from the public, we would have some representation of the public deciding on what we're doing. And maybe it needs to be someone with some, a real estate background, if that's what you want. They don't meet that often. And it could be Zoom. So I think participation would be irrelevant, because I'm sure they probably do meet Zoom. So I still believe that I think we need to have the public involvement. We get, in our credentialing and so forth, we don't engage the public enough. So how do we do that? This is a committee that we would have that opportunity. So I still think we need to have some public engagement.
Mr. Fisher, then Mr. Ribble.
Madam Attorney, could you clarify through the schools, through DAC, who can be on DAC?
So DAC is made up of members of SAC. So, and those usually are parents or those involved with the school.
Can any member of the public join SAC?
Yeah, because it's usually people who are involved with the school. But SAC, it has very specific statutory guidelines that are required. So I know that our intent when we were going to have DAC be the primary board advisory committee was to encourage folks from the public to participate in the school so that they can, kind of be a member of SAC and then end up being a member of DAC.
What I'm asking is, it does not have to be just a parent or kid in that school.
No, any member of the public that is involved with that school can participate.
That's just my clarification.
I'm going to go to Mr. Ribble first, then Ms. Giovanelli.
Yeah, I just have the $1 million question. So if you're going to go from 6 to 7, who's going to pick the person? Who's going to make the decision on who the public person is?
Yeah, good question. And so, okay, so I understand the whole DAC process and so forth, but we just had a complaint this week where someone on DAC, or SAC, and the SAC actually wanted to be on DAC, and that is selected by the principal. And the principal didn't give that opportunity to that committee person. I will tell you that the representatives on DAC are strictly selected by a principal and controlled by that. And by witness of that, if you read the complaint that we received in the email this week, it happens. So if you think that everything's perfect, we don't live in a perfect world. And so I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
A couple of things that I was going to suggest. First of all, may I suggest that we look at representatives from each school region, because now we are organized by region, which would then give you 8 members. We am certainly open to some suggestions around that 9th person, if you'd like to do that. The other piece to remember about DAC, and I hear exactly what you're saying, Ms. Giovanelli, I ran schools for 18 years, so here's how DAC works, okay? You're at a SAC meeting, and we say as principals, who would like to serve on DAC? And everybody pulls out their calendars, and they sit down and they look. And sometimes it turns out where nobody wants to do it. So that is not an option for principals because they are required to have a DAC representative. So if everybody pulls out their calendars and then looks at the floor or gets up and goes to the restroom, the principal is encouraging somebody to do it, right? So I will say we do hold principals responsible for making sure there is a DAC member. I can just share with myself as principal, I did not select the DAC person, but there were times where I had to say, okay, we're not leaving until somebody volunteers. So again, it is a voluntary process. And then the other piece I wanted to clarify is the membership of SAC, certainly does include, a teacher, somebody from the support staff, but it also includes a community member and parents. So I just want to make sure everybody understood the full composition of the school advisory council. I know in my schools, I had community folks that were involved as well, and actually, I do believe that's a requirement. So I just want to be clear that members of DAC are comprised of parents, but they're also comprised of community members. I served as the staff liaison for that committee for 2 years, and I do remember there being community members in there as well as parents, and certainly teachers periodically would step up. So just wanted to clarify those pieces.
And just to add to what Dr. Carlin said, that's actually a statutory requirement that you have members of the community, members of the business community. Statute actually requires you to also take into consideration the composition of those that are in that school, in that community, from an economic standpoint, et cetera. So it's supposed to be comprehensive and a good reflection of what that community surrounding that school is.
And I think that's great, but I don't know how, I was on DAC, and they were mostly teachers, or staff, and parents. I don't recall it really being any community members, and let's face it, if they weren't showing up for EDAC and the other construction advisory and so forth, why are they going to go to a school? Why is a business person going to go to a school and attend a meeting that very few do? So if they're not going to attend a SAC meeting, and I think, and much less a DAC meeting, and volunteer to be on DAC from just being a community member. So we're just eliminating that. That's, I think it's a great concept, but I haven't seen it been really effective.
Dr. Carlin?
So I really like the idea, and I want to just weigh in on something real quickly. I like the idea of having an odd number of members. So a couple of ideas could be looking for one person to be appointed as a representative from the construction industry or the real estate industry. That could perhaps happen. We also have a wonderful partner in our Foundation for Lake County Public Schools. I wonder if they would be willing to have a member of their team serve on the site selection committee. Again, it doesn't meet often, but it is an opportunity to include our foundation, and that could be the 9th member. So just trying to move toward that idea.
That's a great idea. Ms. Shaviano?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of that. So, again, in my experience in SAC and PTO and all of the things, right? When you think back to when these appointments happen, traditionally, it's the first meeting of the year, you get your SAC done, and then you do your DAC meeting. And it is a voluntold situation. And it's usually the same group of people from SAC and DAC traditionally. And it is parents that have been involved. And I personally did SAC and I did DAC. I also think it's part of our school communication to do a better job of outreach in the community. Because when you think about the PTO and bringing in those partnerships and bringing in those community members, that was always our piece when we're trying to raise funds and do sponsorships and do events. Like, who are we partnering with and can we bring them in? But again, our schools are limited in what they can do day to day and who they can bring in. So I do see what you're seeing, Ms. Giovanelli, and I do like the recommendation, Dr. Carlin, and maybe if it's something we just open up the one appointment and we just open it up to the community overall versus specific organizations that already partner with us. Maybe there's another organization or somebody that we don't know that wants to take part, and we just maybe look outside of our current bubble and see who wants to participate. So I am open for it being an odd number and opening it up to that community and it being an appointment from the board to get that additional member.
Ms. Giovanelli.
Well, this is actually a question for Mr. Bruno. The DAC 3 representatives, they would not be typically, yeah, okay, 2, whatever. But, oh, yeah, okay, so they would not necessarily meet any criteria of being in the construction business or real estate, am I correct?
That's correct.
So I do like the superintendent's idea of someone being in that kind of business, in the real estate business.
So,
but I still, at that point then, would that, because I don't think we approve who these, does the board approve who's selected for that? Or how would that look?
So we're going back again to this very fine line in terms of what's the purpose of this committee, right? So this committee right now is a committee that is to assist the superintendent in bringing forward recommendations to the board. If you start having the board select and put somebody on there, now it's becoming a committee that's directly impacting and helping the board with decision making. So there's a fine line in terms of when this becomes a sunshine committee. So if the board wants to do that, it's definitely within your purview to do that. I mean, these policies is how you govern. So if you choose to do that, that's within your purview. One thought would be something similar to what we do now with the Value Adjustment Board, how we select those individuals. We bring you a list and then you decide. Again, you're opening it up. Now, if you want to keep it as a committee to assist the superintendent with her recommendations for site selection, et cetera, and as she did state, some of these things do come back before you because you have to authorize, then I would not have the board making selections to participate in that committee. You can direct the superintendent, when you're looking at your site selection, superintendent, please make sure that there's somebody with this background on there. We can put that in the policy, but it's not somebody that's being selected by the school board.
Dr. Carlin, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do. So I just want to make sure that we just state for the public, the purpose of the committee is to keep the public informed about the district's potential land purchases and planned sites. It is not the intent of the committee to have any decision-making authority over the acquisition of real property, but rather to provide information, recommendations, and knowledge to district staff prior to the acquisition of real property or the placement of a new school site. That's why I was advocating perhaps for us to have 2 representatives from each region, because now we're divided, even further subdivided outside of the enrollment zones. So we would have 2 people from the north, south, west, and east, which is broader reaching into the pockets of our neighborhoods and our communities. And again, because we want to have that advice about where school sites could be, then that would help address some of the comments I've heard relative to active and engaged participation, because if it's going to be in my neck of the woods, in my region, I probably have some strong feelings about where that should or shouldn't be. So that's why I'm advocating for the regions. And also, like I said, I would be happy to assist the board with bringing forward recommendations of somebody perhaps with a real estate background or somebody that might have some knowledge in that area. That way you have truly parents that are helping to make recommendations around the intention of this committee, and also having somebody that may have a real estate background. So certainly happy to offer to help with that. And I really did like Mr. Pre-Bruno's suggestion around like something similar to the Value Adjustment Board.
Attorney.
So this would be my recommendation. We're not going to go to second reading on this policy. I'm going to think this through and process this a little bit and talk to Dr. Carlin and see if we can come up with a recommendation for the board, and we'll have another first reading on this policy. Okay?
Thank you. All right, thank you. Any other policies that anyone has questions with this afternoon? All right, thank you both. We're going to move on. Next, we have the Phase 2 compensation. I'd like to invite Dr. Shanna Johnson and Dr. Ron Arusi to the podium. They will be presenting this afternoon.
More fun stuff?
Thanks.
All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Carlin, and Attorney Dupuy-Bruno. Dr. Iarusi and I are here to talk to you about Phase 2 compensation. Today's presentation focuses on our continued evolution of the Phase 2 compensation work, and we'll begin today by talking about the philosophy that grounds this work. Then we'll provide a Phase 1 recap. And then next, we'll introduce Phase 2, which digs deeper into the structure and implementation. And this section will walk through the current state, the transition state, and which are the strategies and actions we're taking right now to bridge the gap between where we are and where we need to be, and the future state, which is our long-term vision. Finally, we'll define what success looks like within Phase 2. Our why is simple but powerful. We know that in today's competitive market, the ability to attract, and retain top talent is one of the most important levers that we have for student success. And to do that, we must provide a compensation system that is clear and responsive to the needs of our workforce. We're not just enhancing pay structures, we're strengthening our value proposition as an employer. Our vision for success outlines what we're building toward: an objective, open-range compensation system, one that is easy to understand, transparent, and accessible to every current and future employee. On the right, you'll see our success pyramid, which illustrates the key outcomes we are aiming for in this work. At the base, employees understand how compensation is determined. This is where clarity and communication begin. Next, salary structures that are competitive within our region, so we remain a desirable destination for talent. Then, pay practices that support internal mobility and growth, rewarding development and encouraging longevity. Next is high performers are recognized and retained so that excellence is not only appreciated, but sustained. And finally, at the top, pay is perceived as fair and transparent, which is the ultimate measure of trust in any compensation system. Each layer builds upon the last to ensure that our compensation system not only functions, but inspires confidence and pride in our workforce. This is the future that we're trying to build together. To understand where we are going, it's important to reflect on where we have been. This slide provides a snapshot of the evolution of our compensation philosophy over the past several years. As you can see from the timeline, in 2018, our district operated under a step-based salary schedule, which offered predictable progression but lacked responsiveness to market conditions or differentiated performance. By 2019, we shifted to a market rate model for certain groups. While this was a step forward, it still left us with multiple disconnected compensation systems. In 2025, our goal is to implement a fully integrated open range system, a sustainable model that supports both consistency and flexibility across all job families. What this timeline shows is a clear historic lack of consistency. That's why phase 2 is so critical. It's not just a redesign, it's a realignment of our entire compensation philosophy. Today, our current compensation philosophy is rooted in 5 core principles: external competitiveness, internal equity, pay for performance, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. Before I turn it over to Dr. Iarusi, I want to address a myth head-on. Sometimes when people hear compensation work, they immediately think everyone is going to get a raise, and that compensation is only about money. That is simply not true. Compensation work is much more than money. It's about fairness, transparency, career pathways, recognition, job role reviews, and aligning pay with the work being done. To help illustrate this, we've given you each a $100,000 grand bar. When this candy bar was invented by Nestle in 1966, the name played on the idea that wealth alone was all that mattered. But just like our compensation system, the real value is what's inside. The layers of caramel, the chocolate, and the crisp that makes it whole. In the same way, our compensation strategy is layered. Fair placement for the work being done. Transparency so employees easily understand the system. Pathways so people see how they can grow. And impact that align with student success. So again, compensation is more than just about money. It's about creating a system that supports, sustains, and retains our people. This work has not been done to this degree in our district before. And so now Dr. Iarusi is going to explain.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Good afternoon, board members, Superintendent Dr. Carlin, Attorney DuBois-Bruno. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about, as Dr. Johnson kind of illustrated in her presentation, the excitement around what we're trying to do with compensation. And I can tell you from my years of experience, over 20 years in educational administration, I've never seen anything quite like it. And so the complexity, but the comprehensive nature of what's happening with our compensation is some really exciting things that are going on. Today, I'd like to start with a little bit of a phase 1 recap so that we can kind of see where we started with this whole idea of establishing the current pay system that we're trying to implement at this point in time. So it's really about the open range system that we are currently implementing. So it started back in October of 2023 when the district brought Evergreen in to do a comprehensive study of the salary system and the pay structure that we currently had in the district. And as you know, Dr. Johnson referred to the market range system and what we had currently in place at that time, and do some recommendations on salary adjustments and putting a pay grade system in that really is everything that Dr. Johnson talked about. And so when Evergreen came in, they started with doing some research into what the district currently had. So they did some focus groups, did some job analysis, did some surveys, and also did some market research to see what currently exists in the district so that they could make a comprehensive recommendation about how the district should move forward. So part of that recommendation is really what encompasses phase one of what, the current structure that we're trying to implement. And that was developing the pay grade system that we would use to place all of our employee groups on. So really, we're talking about the recommendation for the district to move to an open range system. And to try to summarize that in a couple sentences is a little difficult because it is a little bit more complex. And so the pay grade system basically is a range that starts with a minimum salary, a midpoint of that salary range, and a maximum. And really, they're intended to be aligned with the job descriptions, the responsibilities, and the duties that we are asking all of our employees to perform. So there is a pay grade assigned to the current job descriptions. That's really about what phase one entailed. The development of the pay grades, assigning them to certain job descriptions and to areas and work groups. And then that would be the implementation of placing our current employees within those pay grades. So that's really what phase one is all about. And Dr. Johnson said we have some myth busters in here. So because of the Evergreen study, was it automatically meant that every employee would get a raise? And at that point, no, that was not the intent of what the Evergreen study was. It was really an analysis and a determination to begin to implement a structure that would evolve over time to get to the full implementation of an open range system. And so phase one really was about making the recommendations of what pay grades should be assigned to what employee groups, and within those employee groups, what individual job titles existed. And so after May 2024, when Evergreen made those recommendations, the district took a step really to implement and develop a compensation department. And so now we have a director of compensation. Actually, it's a senior coordinator at this time of compensation, and there are 3 analysts that really assist in that to really do a lot of the work. Not only are they doing current work, which is, helping to establish what, new employees, existing employees, what their salaries are, but really to really dive in and do the work of taking these pay grades and start to implement the phase 2 part of that, which now we'll kind of get into. So in November 2024, Evergreen came to the board, they gave their presentation, they made the recommendations that, we established the pay grades, and at that time, we moved forward. So in between November of 2024 and December of 2024, that's where we established and implemented pay grades for all of our unbargained positions. As you know, we also have bargain positions, and at that point, SPALC was introduced to the open range pay system, and through bargaining that year, there was an agreement to implement those pay grades at that point. And so still part of phase 1 is really then putting our existing employees within those pay grades. Once that happens, now we can start to enter phase 2, which is actually a very complex and comprehensive analysis of all of our departments to see that we have the right job descriptions, develop job families, the leveling that we have within the organization is appropriate for the work that we're done. So before we actually decide where our employees actually should be on the pay grades, we have to do all of that work and analysis before we can do that. That's really what phase 2 is all about. And that's why it takes a little bit longer to get all of that work done, because we are beginning that work with each one of our departments. So the comprehensive analysis of each one of those departments is starting to take place. And so we put together a steering committee to make sure that we would help in gathering the right information, getting all of our chiefs of all of our departments on board, explaining to them what the process would look like. We also started to communicate that with our building principals. And kind of what evolved through that phase 2 piece was actually the discussion about differentiation that should take place within our school district and how that differentiation affects our school buildings. And so that work evolved into, as well, collaborating with our TALC committees. We have a turnaround committee that was really geared towards talking about differentiation within our buildings. We got principal feedback. We work with TALC, and that's where the idea of the risk levels came from. through all of that work. So we have the pay grades, we have people placed on the pay grades, and we have to do all of the work and the analysis to get to the end of phase 2. But we need to transition from phase 1 to phase 2, and that's kind of the current state of where we're at. So we've had the established pay grades, we've placed people on the pay grades at their current salary, and now we have to transition to phase 2. And so this is a process. And it's probably going to take at least a year to get all of our departments taken care of before we can fully implement phase 2. So we're working with the pay grades we currently have, and some of these are some of the temporary measures. And another myth, salary data demotivates employees. One of the things that we're trying to do in this data is also provide some motivation to our employees, because part of this work is also setting career pathways. So you may be at a certain place within the pay grades, and you can actually see where you need to be, what skills you need to require if you would like to move it. And that's really what a comprehensive pay system is all about. So these are the different employee groups and where they're at currently in the transition state. Our school-based administrators, we had lots of discussion about where they were last year and how they will be placed on the pay grades in the future. Right now, we have 3 areas of school-based administrators. We have athletic directors, assistant principals, and principals that we're really working with. So we put together an advisory group to talk about what does, pay grade U18 for our assistant principals and pay grade U20 look like, and what criteria should be established to decide where they should be at. And we got a lot of great feedback from our principal advisory committee. We have representatives from each zone, from each level. The risk levels are represented in there, and they've given us, we've had 5 meetings so far, and we think our goal is to wrap this up by the end of September so that we can have an implementation by December. I think we're really headed in that direction, and we'll have a nice, comprehensive, very transparent, and simple to navigate through as far as an administrator pay schedule. For the central office administration, obviously, we went through a pretty intensive reorganization. There were office administrators who were affected by that, and there's some office administrators who weren't affected by that. And so a lot of the work that's being done in phase 2 and department-wise is really looking at a lot of not only our central office administration, but those other areas that exist within the buildings. And eventually they will be, part of that analysis. But in transition, we're actually looking at collecting some of their resumes and looking at where they could be in temporary transition to be placed according to their years of experience, the skills that they bring, and the knowledge before we finished phase 2. So that's transition for central office administration. Talc and Spalk we're working on currently. As you all know, we have a tentative agreement with Spalk. Actually, the letters went out to them today, which for all of our employees will tell them, what the tentative agreement would do as far as their salary ranges. They have implemented all of the pay grades for Spalk. And so the collection of those resumes and the analysis of that will actually help place them appropriately where they're at. And I know that they're very excited and very appreciative of that work that's been done with Spalk. We are at current negotiations with Talc. We had another session last night, and we're hopeful that we can come to an agreement with them in transition as well. Schedule N typically in the district follows what we do with Spalk, because there's a lot of similarities between our Schedule N employees and what they do, what they're required to do with our Spalk employees. So we are in the process of collecting all the work experience for all of our Schedule N employees as well, and that will follow kind of the process that we've used with Spalk. This is a kind of a timeline, and as I said, it's a very comprehensive process, and I'll get into a little bit about specifics about what the process actually entails. But this is the timelines to get to each one of our departments. And as you can see, there's a couple pages here. We've already started with transportation, with our casual employees. We're doing the work with school administrators, which we hope to end by the end of September and fully implement by the November pay checks. We're working on in CTE, legal services, public safety, and you can see I won't go through every one of these, but this is the timeline that will bring us all the way. Actually, if you look at the next page, it will take us till spring of 2027 to complete all of this work. So everybody's kind of in transition until we're able to get to each one of these departments to do all of the analysis. So this is a little bit about the process that's used in phase 2 to do all of the analysis work within each of our departments. So our compensation team goes into the department. They do kind of a lot of the similar work to what Evergreen does. They collect the job titles. They meet with the administration within that department. They talk to employees, and they really try to figure out and develop appropriate job descriptions that actually fit the work that they're doing. We haven't done a comprehensive job description analysis, especially in some areas, for quite some time. And so that's some really important work to make sure that as we've evolved and changed throughout the years, that those job descriptions really reflect the work that they're doing. As a part of that too, we are starting to develop job families. Where are there similarities within that department? And then leveling within those jobs families. So who should be a coordinator? Do we need a coordinator 1, coordinator 2, based on those job descriptions? And what is the analysis of each one of those departments? And that's what the compensation team does. That's part of their expertise in determining that. So once the evaluation is done, then it goes back to the chiefs and the administration for approvals, and eventually then would come back to the board as part of that, implementation piece for approval before it's implemented. Again, a lot more work goes into the analysis of all of the different departments. We have to make sure that all of our job descriptions meet the Fair Labor Standards Act. So there are requirements to determine whether or not a position should be a bargain position or an unbargained position. Also, hourly rate employees, whether they should be exempt or whether they should be non-exempt. And our comp team has all of that information. They have checklists to go through each one of those job descriptions to make sure that they follow the Fair Labor Standards Act. And again, the best in class is, I think there's a myth out there that once the Evergreen study is done and phase 2 is done, that we're done, that we don't need a comp team anymore. But this is a continual process because as we evolve and change, the job market changes. This has to be done on a yearly basis to make sure that we are up to speed and up to date, and that all of our employees are doing the work that we need to, and they're compensated accordingly.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we're building a system that ultimately puts students first, because that's what we're about. Because when we attract, support, and retain top talent, students are the ones that benefit. And that's why we're here. So this new model really pays for the work and ensures that compensation is based on the roles, the complexity, and the impact of that work. Our goal is to have consistency, like Dr. Iarussi talked about, in both the method and the communication used to determine the compensation for every employee. And that means that every employee can expect the process to be easily understood, transparent, and accessible. And we're achieving this through the continued work of the job families and leveling, just as Dr. Iarussi talked about, and then assigning each position to the appropriate pay grade based on a clear set of standards. This entire compensation philosophy is built directly to support our district's strategic plan, specifically in the area of recruitment and retention. And as Dr. Iarussi said, this work really is never done. It is cyclical in nature and will just continuously improve, but we've got to get this, complete right now to be able to continuously improve, if that makes sense. So, all right. So as we bring this presentation to a close, we want to leave you with a clear sense of what is ahead, the future state. So we're finalizing pay administrative guidelines for all groups. These guidelines will provide clear direction on how compensation decisions are made and applied across the district and the day-to-day operations. For current employees, we are launching a total compensation visual through PeopleSoft, which I'm being told will be completed in about a month. We're very excited about that. This tool will allow employees to easily view and understand their full compensation package, which includes salary, benefits, and other additional contributions. For future employees, our website will be updated. We're also effective if it's clearly understood. Together, this communication campaign ensures that our compensation work is not only thoughtfully designed, but also clearly communicated and widely understood. Because clarity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any successful system, especially when it comes to compensation. So at this time, we will take Superintendent comments and board member discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And first of all, just an appreciation to Dr. Johnston and Dr. Iarusi for all of your work in the area of compensation and beyond. I just will continue to brag about our HR team and all of the work that you're doing during the day and late into the evening hours. A special thank you to Dr. Iarusi for all the work he's doing as our chief negotiator this year, and lots of good things happening in the world of bargaining, so thank you. I just want to comment on a couple of things. First of all, I heard today compensation is a complex body of work, and there is no doubt that that is true. I would argue also worthwhile. I really appreciate the clarification around the Evergreen study. That was something I heard a lot about on the campaign trail. What is this Evergreen study? What happened? This was all supposed to give us a raise. That was what the scuttle was out there in the community, especially among our internal stakeholders. And thank you for clarifying that it really is around job analyses, looking at market research, and really being the body of information that would help drive a lot of our compensation work moving forward. So thank you for that. I also want to point out the statement around a lack of a consistent compensation model for the school district, and the work that you all are doing to make sure it's not just a one-time deal, that it is ongoing work that will be addressed with a timeline, which I think our employees are cheering about because that is certainly something that has been missing, and we appreciate your work on that. I'm also excited about the notion of succession planning. That is something that I've heard for many years in our district that we have. I had actually, when I was a member of cabinet, asked for a copy of our succession plan, and it was really a struggle that would even be provided. So just to hear you all talking about, I'm an employee in the school district, and now I will know the path to move me forward to any job that I may aspire to have. So just really appreciate the clarity of that presentation and the work that's to come regarding succession plan. And I always share with our team, I will not be here forever. So we are looking for who's going to be next as the superintendent. And so I take that work as the successor for me very seriously. And I also look out into the audience and see a number of our senior leaders who will not be here forever. And so we want to make sure that we have employees that are working their way through the organization to reach their dream job, and also to make sure that we have succession planning for the future, because that's important to the future of this school district. So just those are my comments. Really appreciate the work, and we look forward to your comments as a board. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Carlin. Board member comments. I think Ms. Chaviano, then Mr. Ribble. Ms. First.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. So thank you both for all of the work. Again, coming from the private sector, corporate, and seeing this, I understand what an undertaking this is, and this is huge, especially with a district of this size, the amount of people that are employed here. So seeing the timeline and seeing the work that's been done, it is commendable, and I know it's not easy, so I'm happy to see that there's a plan in place for our team, because I think I've had this conversation in the past, it's nice to say, okay, here's where I am and here's where I can go, and having that map and that succession and say, I can go here, but I also have the skill set to go here based on my current position. So I think it just opens up opportunity for other individuals that may not know what's available to them. So kudos to that. But I did have a question on slide 7 in regards to the transition state, and there was a comment made in regards to resumes, and I was like, wait a minute. So central office, you're saying schedule N, and resumes are being collected. Can you explain, are we requesting resumes from our individuals?
Yeah.
What is that?
And so I'll start with Spelk, because that's a really good example of what we've done with Spelk to really address, where they're at on the pay grade. So again, in phase 1, establish the pay grades. Everybody then is placed on the pay grade, and we created at that point what's called an observable range. So maybe the pay grade went from $20 an hour all the way up to $54 an hour, but most of our employees are sitting at maybe $26 an hour, regardless of the experience they brought in or the skills they brought in, the additional certifications within that. So if you really want to do the right thing in relation to an open range system and really take a look at the work that's being required and then placing the employee appropriately, you have to do an analysis of the skills they brought in and the experience. So that's at the last bargaining session, we agreed to a collaborative effort to collect work experience from those employees. And that's really what the comp team has been focusing on, and they've gone out and recruited a lot of people to help in that area just to really determine the amount of what we call years E, which is the experience that they bring to the table in that area. And that's really what we want to continue to do with all of our employee groups. So once we get that experience, what we did was, okay, so if you're on S8, which I believe is an electrician, and you're at $28 an hour, but really you had 18 years of experience, you have 3 different certifications, maybe you should be above that. But we can't place everybody where they should be on the pay grade. So what we agreed to in SPALC is we would take you 50% of the way there. So we looked at where you should be, where you're currently at, and what that raise then was determined by the 50% range. So, that kind of concept is being spread throughout the rest of our employee group. So right now we're in the process of scheduling or gathering work experience from Schedule N. The conversation we had with our school-based administrators is, throughout the years they were allowed to get credited for certain types of experience, and that has changed as we look at the different structures that we had. So we want to really hone in on what is the actual experience. If you're a principal, what are you actually bringing to the table? What experience should be credited for you to move on that pay grade? So collecting the work experience, or resumes if you will, is part of that process. I don't know if I completely answered that or not.
Yeah, so
that was a long answer too.
It was good though,
right.
thank you.
It's not the only part of the process, though.
Yeah, so I have 2 more kind of piggybacking on one of them piggybacks. So in PeopleSoft, now that we have that profile, are they able to create, because every person would have their profile, were they able to say, I have a master's degree, I have this much, are they inputting that information inside of PeopleSoft so it's just there and you can pull it? Are we asking them to update that?
Yes, that is part of the process, yes.
Cool. Okay, then last thing, and then you can have it, Bill, I promise. For slide 13, for when we were talking about now for current employees, we're doing a total compensation visual. I was a little shocked. So what do they get? Like, how do they know now, like what they're just, yay. Okay. So.
I mean, that's I believe that's pretty critical,
That's
to
huge.
see,
That's why I was like, wait a minute, okay.
I can remember when I was a young teacher, and I didn't really dive into my paycheck as much, but I didn't actually realize the value of, your FRS
Your
retirement, your benefits that you get in healthcare,
Right.
Those kinds of things. So the idea behind the total compensation is really, so our employees really realize too, what the value of their position is, and so that they can go in and see that, and they can do a check and balance against that as well when they see the total compensation.
No, I think that's great because it gives you a true full visual of everything that it is.
It's
and
more
some
than
things
just
you're
your
not,
paycheck.
Yeah, some things you're not considering. When I'm 20 years old, I'm not thinking about when I'm retiring.
Right.
But I'm getting a little older and I'm like, now I'm looking at it. So that makes sense. So I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment on a couple of things. Vanessa hit some really good key points that I was going to talk about, but moving along, succession planning, as Dr. Carlin knows, is really one of my hot buttons for any organization to be successful. We have to have good succession plans. I think we're on the right track here in the school district. I really believe in promoting from within, so this whole piece with PeopleSoft and updating their achievements and documenting that so anyone can go in at any point in time and see where this person is. Are they really qualified for that next step? And more importantly, what do they need to do? Because promotion's not based on politics. It's based on achievement and a track record of being successful. And also being able to get along with people. That's another key to success, having that civil nature about your demeanor. But I was at the Insurance Task Force meeting, as our 2 folks to my left over here were also there Thursday, and I'm really happy to report that the word is out on this process. I was really pleased with the union officials, and I'm not going to name anybody and embarrass them, that were talking about this, and it was talked about in a very successful way, particularly the piece that we're starting now where folks are learning to be able to talk about their full compensation package, not only the wage, but the benefits and how valuable that is to their home life and to their families. So that was very, very positive to hear. We had a couple other social events over the weekend, which folks were there and everyone's talking about this in a very positive way. So the word is out. I think people are impressed because you've actually have started to engage them so they really see the light at the end of the tunnel instead of it being a mystery. So I applaud you on that communications, and I'm really anxious to hear as we move along the successful stories that we produce out of this demeanor. Great job.
Thank you.
Mrs. Juvenile?
Thank you so much. This was actually great, and I love seeing where we're going. I have a couple questions just regarding some of the things that you said. Regarding collecting the resumes, so I started thinking about that, like people in maintenance that may not have computers, or how are we assisting with that? Because, I mean, they may not even have a resume, much
Right.
less a computer. I mean, I'm assuming that maintenance has computers they could use, but if they don't even have a resume put together, because they've been in landscaping all their life, so how are we assisting with that?
Great question. So that's really the work, part of the work that the compensation team has done. So they've actually went out to like the transportation barns, had open office hours, set up times where employees can come in, obviously through phone, and you know, we've made that available. We actually created a Google form for them, so if they didn't know really, they didn't have a resume, but we really didn't, and then, you know, on that Google form, there was a number that they could call. We did try to school up as much as we could our supervisors and administrators to really help them if the employees needed help. You know, we had quite a bit. I mean, we still have a ways to go in that, but I believe almost 70% of our SPALC employees turn some of that work experience into us. Now, we do have an opportunity to look through PeopleSoft of what their current experience has, but really, if we wanted to do it the right way, we needed to collect that work experience information. But making themselves available, assisting in that conversation, and another key part of that is we have to have verifiable, credible years of experience. And so if we can't verify that experience that was on the work experience form or resume, then we really just can't give you that opportunity. So unfortunately, you know, you may have worked for a company that went out of business, and if they don't have the records, we have no way of verifying some of that experience. But that was all discussed during bargaining with SPALC, and that's really the message that goes out. As long as we have credible, verifiable years of experience, we can apply.
Okay, so, and that leads me to like, are you collecting resumes for bus drivers as well, that kind of thing too? Okay, awesome. I was curious about that.
The work with all of our SPALC employees is complete. So bus drivers, paras, food service workers, all of those folks have been assisted in providing us with their work experience.
And then I bumped into someone this weekend that asked me about, it was a SPALC employee asking about the 3%, and I didn't want to go into details.
Yep.
And they're waiting for I guess you're going to have an email or something.
Went out
but
today, right.
They asked, is the 3% on their hourly rate or annual rate? And I didn't want to get into a conversation. I said
Right.
I would ask, and she was supposed to send me an email. But I think if the clear message is sent out, hopefully, and I just thought I'd bring that to your attention
Right.
since I had that opportunity today.
Thank you for that. And again, so the correspondence that went out today, and again, each employee will receive a detailed email with, here's what your projected salary will be. Here's how the 3% cost of living adjustment in the order of operations, so the 3% added to their currently hourly rate. And then the idea behind the additional 3% was that was the pot of money that we needed to be able to move those employees to the 50% mark of their projected or targeted rate that they should get paid. So, you know, obviously then that would fluctuate. If you're already at the targeted rate, you get the 3% COLA. But if you're below that, then you'd get a certain percentage in addition to that increase to get you to your targeted rate.
So, and that leads me to another regarding this 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So the 50% you're going to put them at that today, you know what I mean? Or is that their projected? So that's what I want a little clarity on that 50%.
Good question. And hopefully I can kind of explain this in an easy way. If you take a bus driver, again, who's, you know, the pay range may be $20 to $40. That would be the pay range for a bus driver. And most of our employees were at the same rate, regardless of the number of years of experience. So, you know, if $30 is the midpoint, and most of our employees were at $24. And so for somebody who may have been here for 5 years, their projected rate may be right at the midpoint. So then the 3% COLA would be applied, and that whatever would take them to get to that $30 would be applied to them. That's where they should be, or 50% of that. So in essence, if they're supposed to be at 30, they were at 24. With 3%, they were at 26. The 50% would give them to $28. Does that kind of clarify that?
Yes,
So,
and I think that's where some
right.
of the confusion is
Right.
with the 3%, because it could be 3% plus a little bit more,
Yes.
depending on the individual.
And, yeah, we tried to illustrate that in bargaining with some charts to show people who were there, like, here's where you're at, here's where the projection's at. The COLA would bring you to here, and then the addition would be based on where you should be, but only bringing you 50%. And hopefully, if, we continue to do what we're doing as we progress through the years, the actual, the goal would be to get people to where they should be on their target rate.
Right, you're
Yep.
going to meet
Yes.
meet it.
We
you know
should
what I mean?
meet it, correct.
Yes. So then one other question. So I love the PeopleSoft program new aspect. That I'm really excited about that. So let's say a teacher opted to not take the insurance. Is that in that program? Are they going to be able to see what they're leaving on the table? And because I know we don't do any adjustments, and I think that's something that I would love to see, where, like myself, I don't take the insurance because I'm on my husband's plan. I think that should be an incentive for us, since we are self-insured, that if they chose not to take the insurance, that option would be valued at X amount, even though not maybe the full amount, but maybe, a portion of it. Because it benefits us, saves us money, as well as how do we benefit that employee? So, I just would love, and that's my question back to the PeopleSoft program. Does that show what they're leaving, the money that they're leaving on the table if they choose not to take it?
I am assuming it does because it's programmed that way, but we still have to test it. So we will
Okay.
double check that aspect. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
good
And that's
point.
all I have. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Juvenile. Anyone else before I go through? Okay, I'll make this brief. So Chief Johnston, Dr. Arusi, great job. Thank you so much. Again, and as well as Superintendent Carlin, thank you for highlighting Evergreen. When Evergreen first came out in this district, it was touted as a solution, as it wasn't, as you had mentioned, analysis or data in that aspect. So thank you for continuing to correct the record on that. I appreciate it. Great job all around on this. I'm excited, especially for looking at the pay process for administrators, the transparency, and now they'll be very process-oriented. So hats off to that. And
I have one more question.
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
That's all I had. Go ahead, Member
I'm
Juvenile.
sorry. One more question. So I know I've had, in the past, I've had teachers that they move here from another state and they have work experience. And I've been told that we really don't give them credit for that. Is this process, what you're doing right now, will that accommodate some of that and give them the credit that they've missed from being from wherever to back into Florida?
I mean,
Salaries?
remember, we're in the process of bargaining. That has
Yes.
been a topic of the discussion.
Oh.
And actually, we've had this, so it's been, it's part of the record, so it's in the minutes. We've had discussion about what we consider for teachers. They've always referred to it as years X. So the issue with years X is throughout the years, even with legislation, and this happens all over the country. So the amount of work experience that you can bring into the district and get credit for, unfortunately, over the last 20 years has changed. At one point, it might have been your max number was 5 years, regardless if you had 10 years, and then it went to 10 years. Now it's at 20 years, and that's what our policy is. So really determining what that year's X or the credible amount of service credit that teachers get is really up for discussion. We would like to get to that point where we have a system that, recognizes, what teachers bring to the table, but that's all part of the negotiations process.
Yes, and my apologies for
That's
that,
okay.
but I think it's a really important work. So, no, that's where my heart is. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to item number 9, District Strategic Priorities with Ms. Cox, Chief Neese, and Dr. Malloy. I guess Mr. Alton too. Welcome. Whenever you're ready. And Chief Newland.
Yes. Well, good morning, or good afternoon, board members, Superintendent Dr. Carlin, and Attorney Dupree Bruno. The team here today is excited to present to you our 10-year capital plan. So we will get right into it. On our agenda today, we'll go through with you our capital plan philosophy, and this is what really drives the development of the capital plan. We'll also discuss the types of revenue that go into the plan, the impact of enrollment and capacity, as that plays a large role on the need for the construction and potential remodeling of existing schools, and then the types of projects in the plan itself as far as maintenance, safety, technology, transportation, and then some of the financial considerations where we were unable to meet some of the needs needed by the different departments. So ultimately, students are the philosophy behind our capital plan. But in addition, the capital plan is a reflection of our short and long-term strategies to build and maintain our current assets. It's also a reflection of just some of our risk mitigation strategies to provide a safe environment to our students, and ultimately give them the best learning experience. To get into the different types of revenue, we have first the largest funding source, which is the 1.5 mil property tax. We also have the half-cent sales tax, impact fees, and charter school revenue. This is PICO revenue received for the charter schools, and the district just serves as the pass-through for that, but that is built into the capital plan itself. We have interest income because whenever we can invest our funds and earn some interest on dollars laying around, we want to make sure we're maximizing that. We also have miscellaneous revenues, and these would be things such as if we sell land, fuel tax reimbursements from the state, that would encompass miscellaneous revenues going into the plan, and then of course capital outlay and debt service. I do want to point out in the 10-year capital plan, you'll see that we do have a requirement that went into effect in the 23-24 school year where we are required to share property tax with charter schools. And it's a phased-in approach, so in fiscal year 26, the current year, we are sharing 60% of what they are eligible for. So by fiscal year 28, we'll get to 100% of what they would be due in property tax revenue. For our revenue projections in the plan, and this is just reflective of the 5-year projections, of course, property tax remains the largest and most stable source of revenue at this point in time, and you can see the current amount to be generated in the plan is over $243.5 million. We've had just the supplementation of sales tax revenue for the last several years, and you'll see where that falls off in fiscal year 29 as the sales tax is set to sunset in December of 2028. And then, of course, we have the additional revenue from impact fees, and that's through the collection on new residential homes, multifamily homes, and mobile homes.
Good afternoon. Now we're going to take a look at enrollment and capacity. This slide presents the School District of Lee County's current capacity data, which serves as the foundation for our enrollment projections and proposed new construction projects. We pulled this data on September 2nd, 2025. The district's total K-12 student enrollment was 88,043 students. Again, this figure reflects only traditional public school enrollment and does not include charter or private school enrollment. Since the data was pulled last week, enrollment on this report has already increased by approximately 100 students, and we expect additional fluctuations throughout the attendance cycles that we take throughout the year. The trend data displayed begins with the 2021-2022 school year and uses stable focus counts. It is important to note that while the current enrollment of 88,043 students is lower than last year's count, the comparison is not exact since the timing of the data differs. The comparative bar graph on the right-hand, The comparative bar graph on the right-hand side illustrates that current enrollment already exceeds our fish capacity. Fish capacity is the state-approved number of students our buildings are designed to accommodate. Although some seats remain available, they are not evenly distributed across grade levels or geographic zones. This imbalance is the primary capacity challenge driving the need for additional facilities. This slide presents the district's projected 10-year student enrollment forecast. This is prepared by MGT, formerly Davis Demographics, our third-party demographic consultant. According to the forecast, the school district of Lee County is projected to serve 106,956 traditional K-12 students by the 2034-2035 school year. This represents an increase of 18,913 students over the next decade. This anticipated growth is a key factor driving the development of new construction projects within the capital plan, with projects targeted by school level and geographic zone. The 10-year forecast is updated annually using October Cycle 2 enrollment data. Ongoing evaluation of enrollment trends ensures that capital planning remains proactive in addressing student growth and aligning capital projects with future needs. This slide highlights current building utilization across the district. At present, 34 schools are operating above 100% of their assigned building capacity. This number is expected to increase as additional students are assigned throughout the attendance cycles. Capacity pressures are not evenly distributed across the district. Nearly half of the schools over 100% of fish capacity are located in the East Zone. In particular, elementary zones K and L in Lehigh Acres contain 8 schools, all of which are over building capacity. The image on this slide emphasizes the East Zone high schools. Currently, only Dunbar and Riverdale remain under building capacity. However, Riverdale's enrollment was intentionally reduced during reconstruction and is expected to reach or exceed capacity within the current year. At the high school level, the East Zone has 10,819 students, but only 10,463 available seats, creating a deficit of more than 350 seats. Without additional construction, this shortfall will continue to grow with a projected additional 5,000 new East Zone high school students arriving by 2035. This slide presents the number and distribution of relocatable classrooms, or portables, currently in use across the school district of Lee County. The district operates a total of 258 portables allocated as follows. We have 30 that are federally owned, 149 that are district owned, and 79 leased portables. Just some highlights in terms of the selected portable distribution. 44 are at the Hector Cafferata temporary campus. 37 are at the Cypress Lake Middle temporary campus. Both of those temp campuses are identified by orange on the far right of the visual. We have 91 portables at elementary schools, 50 in the east, 10 in the west, 31 in the south. We have 36 portables at middle schools, 31 in the east, 4 in the west, 1 in the south, and then 26 at high schools, 22 in the east and 4 in the south. You can see that portable classrooms continue to serve as a short-term solution to capacity challenges, but their widespread use underscores the urgency of new permanent construction. This slide highlights the board-approved increases to school design capacities. Middle school capacity has been raised from 1,200 to 1,500 students, and high school capacity has been raised from 2,000 to 2,800 students. These adjustments will enable the school district to more effectively address capacity pressures at both the middle and high school levels. It is important to note that several new construction projects in the capital plan had already advanced through scoping and procurement before the board's approval of these higher capacities. As a result, their seat counts appear under the previous design standards rather than the updated capacities. Slide 11 provides a detailed overview of new construction projects, including seat counts, projected completion dates, estimated costs, and current status. These projects are also reviewed regularly through the district's bi-monthly construction updates, of which you had one today. The expansion of student capacity begins in earnest next year with the full openings of Hector Cafferata and Bayshore's K-8s. In addition, the portable swing site at Lehigh Senior High will accommodate approximately 400 elementary students until the opening of Elementary L in 2028. From 2026 through 2028, the district will undertake one of its largest capital construction efforts, opening 3 schools per year, 9 in total, through a combination of remodels and new construction. This pace underscores the need for a comprehensive human capital plan to ensure staffing and resources align with facility growth. This slide outlines the new schools included in the capital plan and the total seat capacity each will provide. In total, these projects will generate 14,188 new student stations. In terms of strategic impact, the timing and location of these new schools closely mirror the projected enrollment trends, particularly in the East Zone. The swing site scheduled for 2026 serves as a critical short-term mitigation strategy while permanent facilities come online. Slide 13 compares projected student enrollment, shown in blue, with the total student seats generated by the capital plan, shown in orange. Based on the timing of planned projects, 2028 is the only year in which the district is projected to have sufficient capacity to meet student demand. Beyond that year, capacity deficits reemerge and become more pronounced as enrollment continues to grow after the final new school construction project is completed in 2032. This trend illustrates the ongoing challenge of balancing student growth with available facilities and underscores the need for continued capital investment beyond the current plan.
Microphone, please.
That's twice now. Two meetings in a row I've done that. Good afternoon again, everybody. Today I'll be covering the maintenance portion of this presentation. This slide here summarizes the district's anticipated capital projects over the next 10 years. An estimated $1.7 billion will be invested in HVAC, roofing, electrical systems, building improvements, and other operational areas such as plumbing, paving, and drainage. Okay. And this slide gives you a breakdown of capital projects that the maintenance department is managing just this year. There are 148 capital projects that will be completed this school year. The majority of the projects address building improvements such as electrical systems, heating, ventilation, and HVAC. Next slide. This slide shows you our current maintenance schedule compared to industry standards and recommendations. When comparing our rotation to industry recommendations, you can see that in many cases we are extending our rotation by 5 years, and in some cases we're extending it up to 10 years. Next slide. This slide captures the total number of sales tax projects completed by the maintenance department. Year to date, a total of 583 sales tax projects have been completed since March of 2019. Thankfully, the sales tax has funded many projects related to building improvements that we may not have been able to fund without it. Okay, so as we all know, the weather in Florida, as you all know much better than I, the weather in Florida is prone to storm events, and these storm events can definitely impact and accelerate our capital replacement schedule. In our district, we've seen instances with walkway covers, ceiling tiles, and chain link fences. For example, ceiling tiles have a life expectancy of 10 to 20 years. However, following a storm event, multiple classroom spaces may need to have ceiling tiles replaced from damage associated with water intrusions, and this can occur at numerous locations simultaneously. Also, in the case of roofing, storm events not only accelerate the replacement schedules, but in the long term also affect the amount of funding that will be needed in future years because of the number of facilities that will require upgrades at that same interval. And these are just a couple examples of many that can be shown on how storms can impact our capital plan. Next. So this slide gives you an example of the tool we use to prioritize maintenance actions. When developing the district's capital plan, it's important to establish a tool that allows fair assessment and rating of building systems. This tool is called the Facility Assessment Tool, and it allows the condition of buildings and systems to be rated on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being new and 5 being critical. It also allows us to set a priority for these building systems. The priorities range from 1 to 4. 1 represents functional with only minimal defects, and 4 represents risks that can lead to injury if not addressed. Next. And the last slide I have for today gives you a look at what the average lifespan of each of our facilities are throughout the district. The average lifespan for a school or a school facility is typically about 50 years. And as you see, currently 76 of our facilities are between 0 and 60. 19 are between 61 and 80 years of age. 4 are between 81 and 100 years of age. And we have 3 that are 101 years plus of age. Now turn it over to Mr. Newland to cover security.
Good afternoon. Looking at the capital plan for safety and security and transportation, and you've heard me talk about this before about looking at fencing and vestibules. The zone managers, they go out to every single site at least twice a year to look at each campus, what's needed. And again, I've talked about the fencing needs we've identified, whether it be interior, ornamental fencing or barrier fencing, and also with the secure vestibules. You'll see on here 24 new fencing projects we've looked at, 1 to add, and 32 security vestibule projects as well. Over time getting these done. The next slide, or next bullet point you'll see, talks about the district-wide surveillance and access control systems. Dwayne Alton's going to cover that as part of his slide on the next one, so I'll let him cover that. And then the last part here talks about our 245 school buses, including corresponding cameras and GPS systems. So right now, on the average, we were at one point ordering 70 buses per year. We're down to 50 per year based on minimizing the routing system. So that's down to 50 buses per year right now. That does include all the cameras, equipment that come with the buses, and as well putting GPSs in all of our vehicles in the yellow fleet and white fleet.
Okay, so I'll cover some of the, a big picture overview of our technology. This is a 10-year picture. So on the previous slide, you might have noticed some of the security technologies on there. It's a different number. That was a 5-year picture, so I'm showing you the 10-year projection. When we look at the categories towards the top, these are the things that most people are familiar with seeing in our schools. And then the other projects, it seems like a big number. I'm going to go into that in a minute. That's a lot of the back-end stuff that people don't see. So if we look at just the first 2 categories there, think of that as the classroom and office technology in the schools. So if you notice that about 51% of our total expenditures around technology have to do with our devices, for example, student devices, staff devices, peripherals, printers, those kinds of things that you'll see in the classrooms and offices, as well as the interactive technology packages, which include the Promethean panels, audio systems, and things like that in the classroom. So that's where a little over half of our technology money goes. You'll also see as a breakout the district office refresh, so the $5 million you see there, that's what we spend to replace computers and peripherals within district offices over the 10 years. So the next category, surveillance, intrusion, and crisis alert. So our security technologies, like I said, this is a 10-year view. So that is everything from your cameras to the access control systems used to swipe into the schools. There's a little bit in there for alarm systems, but also the crisis alert system, which is where you can press the button on your badge in an emergency. And what you'll see there is those top categories are the ones you also, that are, the majority of that is funded through sales tax revenue. Then you have the other projects, and I'll give you kind of a breakdown on what that is. That is other capital expenditures. That is not the front end stuff that you see most of the time, not sales tax funded, but about 90 million of that number is capitalized software. That is the software that's district-wide applications. So you were talking about your enterprise resource planning business software, student information systems, all of our Microsoft licensing, Google licensing, a lot of our cloud infrastructure. So for example, we have virtualized environments for our career and tech ed classes to be able to simulate different types of environments all running in the cloud. So that's all in that area, along with disaster recovery infrastructure. And then the remainder of it is some of the back-end equipment that people rarely see, and that is the equipment inside the data centers, the servers that run the district in the district and the schools, networking equipment, which is your wireless networks as well as your wired networks, the switches, routers, all that fun stuff that's in the closets. And then, of course, phone systems and the two-way radio systems that are in the schools where they can talk, and the repeater systems that allow them building-wide coverage. So that's what when you see the other projects, those are the categories that are within there.
The last piece of the capital plan that we'll discuss today is debt. This makes up a large portion of the capital plan, as this is how we construct our new schools. So in the 5-year period, we're looking at taking on almost an additional $700 million in debt. And then, the estimated debt payments in 5 years will be $523 million, right? And so all of the schools that this will fund is laid out in the 10-year capital plan that was attached to this board agenda item. And those projects are funded with primarily the capital millage fund. So we'll look at the board limitation on the debt service usage with capital millage, as well as the statutorily debt service usage. So this graph displays where we are at with that capacity. For example, the blue is the 50% district desired not to use more than 50% of our capital millage revenue to service debt. And the orange is the capacity that we're at with the statutory debt service usage. So I'll give you an example. This year, our capital millage revenue will generate an approximate $243.5 million. And our district recommendation is not to use more than 50% of that revenue to service debt, so that would be $121.8 million. So that's where you'll see at the beginning of this 2026 graph, we're not going to exceed that 50%. This is just showing you the capacity that we're at within that. And lastly, this is just a list of some of the unmet financial needs that we have. Some of these are ongoing from prior years, such as the construction of some new schools, and then a lot of maintenance projects that we were unable to fit in the plan at this time. And there's some examples of those listed to the right of the screen for you. So with that, we'll turn it over to the superintendent and board for discussion and questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cox, for you and your team's presentation. I appreciate it. This is obviously a very comprehensive presentation today, so just thank you for the time and effort that you put into providing the board with all of this information. So to our board, we can see that the students have not stopped coming. When we look at our initial enrollment, while we may be a little bit down at this point, people have discovered Southwest Florida, and they will continue to discover it, as we saw in some of our graphs where we see the student enrollment going up. And so certainly there continues to be a need to keep our eye on construction projects. All of that simultaneously with the maintenance needs of this district, safety and security, and technological needs of our district. Also of important note, you saw, like I did, the number of buildings that are aging, right? So about 25% of our buildings are now well over the 61 to 101 years old, right? So that obviously gives me a little bit of a heartache because I realize what we need to do as our buildings continue to age. So many of them are aging well. So that's a real tribute to those that came before us and put an investment into those. But as we know, we just took care of and are rebuilding Cypress Lake Middle School and obviously Hector Cafretta, and then we just did Franklin Park. I mean, so there's a number of projects that we have begun, but that work is just beginning. I mean, there are going to be schools that are going to be needed, and there are going to be schools that need to be rebuilt. So obviously this is something that we continue to talk about as a team. We continue to talk about the best ways to do that, knowing that there are many competing needs in this district, and we look forward to your conversation today so we may add it to the conversation we regularly have as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Carlin. Board member questions, concerns, comments? Ms. Juvenile?
I do have a question on slide 11. I just want a little clarification. Where'd it go? On the, so the project NNN, it says 2027. Is that, what year is that supposed to be?
So that as Ms. Silcox presented in the construction update, with the recent information that we have as it relates to Army Corps, and then waiting on the, I believe they discussed some of the wildlife. We do believe that opening could be the fall or the what we would term fall, even though it's like summer, but August of 2027.
Yeah, because the slide, I went and looked at that slide. Yeah, it says 29. That's a big, that's two years difference. That's why I'm asking that clarity.
If I may, I believe that that project has been able to be moved up. There was some work through government relations in regard to the Army Corps of Engineers, and I believe we were able to move that project up. Staff, correct me if I am incorrect.
Yeah, that is correct. I believe that it's been briefed maybe 2 times with 27 as the available with the recent information that we got from Army Corps, which I thought it says 27.
NNN says June 2029. And that, so like that, for me, that's really important because what I don't know what it is, and the community really won't know. And I think those dates are really important.
So I think it's exactly as Dr. Carlin had described, but I will add that we'll double check those dates and send out a message just to make sure that everybody has the correct information.
Thank you, because, yeah, it was confusing, so if I'm confused, I can only imagine what the community, the public thinks.
Yeah, and that's why I'd like to clarify if I can. Just from earlier today, that is something we do need to adjust in our presentation. The construction project update does indicate 2029. However, there was a note there that said that we did request from the Army Corps of Engineers additional, we were able to request a permit, and basically we were able to get 2 years in advance of that, but we will clarify that. It's my understanding it is 2027. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So I was looking at all the projects for maintenance. How do they handle all of that? I was just curious because that seems like a lot for our little maintenance department.
That's a great question, and it is a lot of work. I would say that our maintenance department works tirelessly to, address the school and the student and the staff's needs. I would say that it's a constant balancing act between adequate staffing, adequate funding, and also good project management. And so we are working on all of those lines of effort to really, do the most we can with what we have, while also making sure that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars and really doing the best we can with what we have. But honestly, I do think on a typical month-to-month cycle, more comes in than we can complete in a month, but we're still, and you'll hear in the months to come, Mr. Cook's going to do a presentation on RSM audit findings, and we'll talk about the different categories and how long each type of request takes. And you'll find, though, that despite the extreme volume, we're doing a pretty good job of keeping up right now.
Yes. So first of all, welcome, Mr. Neese. We've never met before, so I just want to say welcome.
Thank you.
And so then this is for the superintendent, the $1 million question. And I'm going to be the one to say it. So what is the plan for our half-cent sales tax? Because it ends before these projects end. Because these are never-ending projects, as you mentioned. And I think that, I think you have to start talking about this now. Because I am concerned, so I would love to hear the plan.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll answer it this way, Ms. Giovanelli. This is obviously a conversation that we need to have. We're in 2025. This is up in 2028. So it is 3 years before we absolutely have to make a decision as a board, as a governance team, what we're going to do. In light of that, I have convened an internal task force of our staff to start to look at those options, very much like we did in prior to 2018. So our team will be convening that. I've asked for Ms. Houlihan and for her to gather a number of folks and to start that conversation. She will be working diligently with our staff. So we look forward to having that conversation as a board. Again, we have a 3-year runway, but that 3 years will go fast, and that's why we have kicked off those conversations. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Is that all, Ms. Giovanelli? Next was Mrs. Chaviano.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. So I had a question for slide 22 in regards to technology refresh. And I think I've touched on this in the past. So I know like COVID pushed and we did a big push out with computers and all this stuff for our kids and everything else. I personally would love to see not so much technology for our like elementary school students. Like if we could just take those computers away, that would be wonderful. Only because they are smarter than we are when it comes to technology. They will be fine. I just feel like traditional instruction, I'll call old school on that. If there's a way that we can save costs on that, I'm okay with middle school and high school. That's where I learned how to type and did all my classes in school, and I can type very well, so it's probably Ms. Brooks' class or one of those, actually, so thank you. But I would love to see just less technology in elementary school, and I don't know if that's a discussion for the piece, and we can save some dollars there, but wherever we can look to where we're spending our dollars, I'm fine for that, but that's my 2 cents on
Me too.
our dollars. Just, yeah, I mean, even with last year and like some of the stuff that they were doing, I would just, yeah, I would.
Yeah, and I can,
Paper, pencil still.
the one thing I can mention is that we're working with our academic services team. They are looking at how to restructure, because the pendulum swings, right? Before COVID, we were in a shared environment in elementary. COVID happened, and we kind of went full bore. And so now we're reassessing, and we spent a lot of time analyzing software, and are we really getting returns on some software and things like that. So that process is already, I don't want to speak for academic services folks, but those conversations are ongoing right now.
Yeah, and I would just be curious to see, because I know like your kids are turning them in, some kids get them during the summer, return them back, like what does that look like for the computers that we are handing out if they are getting damaged? I know our parents are responsible for that. We signed that at the beginning of the year saying we will pay if we do not turn in that charger and that computer 100%. So just curious to see like what that spend looks like. And
we could put together some stats on
Yeah.
return rates, damage rates, things like that. So.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Superintendent Carlin, have a follow-up?
Yes, if I may, Ms. Chaviano, thank you very much for bringing this up, and this is a conversation currently we are having with our academic team. I would be remiss, and much like Mr. Alton, I'd like to certainly hear from academic services, but kind of in life, what I've used generally as a rule of thumb is either side of the pendulum is too far to go. And, my USF education training is ringing in my ear right now. Computer-assisted instruction can be valuable. In some respects, I feel like I do agree with you that we have gone way over here on the pendulum. And one of the things that elementary teachers would probably say if they were in the room would be everything in balance. And so there are things, certainly differentiation of instruction can occur really well in a center, but not as the primary driver in terms of technology. So I would just love to hear a little bit more from academic services as we bring you updates on our march toward becoming an age school district. One of the requests I'll have of our team is to make sure we include for you how computer-assisted instruction does help us, not as the be-all and end-all, but as one component of a center. It does help us differentiate instruction for students. So we'll look forward to our academic services providing that update with you, but couldn't agree more. Can't be the be-all and end-all, that's for sure.
Anything else, Mrs. Chaviano? Did you have anything, Mr. Ribble?
Yeah, I just want to ask one key question. Going back to slide 11, that Ms. Giovanelli was talking about. I'm looking at that gigantic number on maintenance, the $1.763 billion. And I know we get a lot of complaints about plumbing. And I was impressed when I went to the stadium last week at Estero High School because 2 years ago when I was at a game, there wasn't any plumbing. It was terrible. In fact, they had like 8 urinals and there only one worked. Now this past week when I was at the game, it was a whole different ball game. The school looked great. It was repainted. So obviously some things are happening different in maintenance. But one of the things that one of the principals mentioned it to me is the number of days for an open concern on a maintenance issue, whether it's electrical, air conditioning, the leak in the roof or whatever. Are we still measuring that? How long, by the time we get the complaint that something needs to be repaired, is it done within a week, 2 weeks, or are we doing any better with responding to their issues of maintenance?
Yes, absolutely. So what you'll see, I believe, at our next board meeting, it will be a presentation on just that. And what you'll see is the amount of time that it took, or that we thought it took, was approximately 104 days, which everybody can agree is way too long. But when we actually broke it down into manageable categories, whether it be urgent, routine, that type of thing, we noticed that all types of requests was going into that number. So you had SREF violations, you had, new fields and roofs being put in, which some of that work can take years to do. And so it skewed our numbers. And so now what we're doing really closely is tracking 4 categories. One is must respond today, or immediate type urgent work. One is within 1 to 2 days. One is up to 30 days. And then another is up to, I believe, 60 days if memory serves. And we're tracking all of those metrics, and we're making sure that we are inside of those goal dates, which are set by industry standard. And so far, we're doing really well over the last couple of months in hitting those numbers in those key categories. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Was that it, Mr. Ribble?
Yes.
Did you have, Mrs. Chaviano, did you have something else?
I had one more piece on the unmet, the financial considerations on 25. There's HVAC that's highlighted. Like everything else, I'm like cabinetry, flooring, okay, HVAC, like we're in Florida. What does that mean? HVAC? Is it a system replacement? Is it an upgrade? Is it maintenance? Do we know specifically when we say HVAC what that is?
So if you look at our maintenance schedule, there's a scheduled system rotation. And so an unmet need would be simply something that we should be replacing or maintaining that we're not able to maintain. And that would be an unmet need due to, funding.
So it would be a replacement or something to that nature then for HVAC? Possibly.
Yes.
Okay.
Was that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give some comments and questions. Great to see we're doing some catch-up on maintenance. I'm excited we didn't see a slide, and I hope we don't in the future, touting that we're spending less than the state average. So I'm impressed with what we're doing in maintenance, so I'm very glad to hear that. I am also excited, and something I know we've talked about with Deputy Superintendent Savage before, it was the facility assessment tool. I'm excited to see that come back and be updated, so that's a good thing. So we're on the slide, Ms. Chaviano. I went to the slide that I was going to talk about. So we have so I'm going to talk about some of the unmet needs and just kind of, maybe we're going to have a discussion, or at least in the future go over some of this. So we have a lot of things going on. The East Zone lately has become a priority, which I agree with, in supporting all the schools out there, because in the past it has not been a priority. Looking back in the district I represent, where Mrs. Chaviano lives as well, and I've had this discussion with Dr. Malloy many times, we've kind of discussed this, is, for example, Northwest Cape Coral, we're getting a housing development. I think it's going to have 3,000 plus houses. So I know we talk about, for example, high school OOO, which is not currently on the plan due to the money, and we've talked about that. I know we still have a little bit of space left at Island Coast. Middle school, Hector, we're adding on those seats, and I know there's some still seats at Mariner Middle as well as Challenger, so we're going to have some issues with elementary going forward. But I'd like to see if we can figure out some other ways. I know it keeps me up at night, just like Dr. Carlin is trying to figure out this. I mean, HVAC needs, especially in some of those areas where those schools are important. I know there's, a lot of issues and things they've had to do to keep them going running. So kind of making a long story short, for example, high school OOO, I don't know if we maybe need to have a discussion at some point, is if we're not going to do a full high school, do we look at an expansion of one of the existing schools out there? I mean, there's pros and cons of that. We've dealt with that. Or looking at other things we've talked about, I brought this up before, is Polk County does the P3, where it's company has it, leases back for 20 years, so you're not putting out that same amount of capital. We're not getting in any difference of revenue, so we have to figure out where we can make it up and keep up with the needs. So I don't know if board members have any thoughts or suggestions on that. Dr. Carlin, I just kind of want to put that out there as something we're dealing with. Ms. Juvenelli?
So I would agree with that wholeheartedly, that statement, because we won't be on the board, but I would hate to see how we're dealing with the East Zone right now and leaving that legacy to the next board members to be dealing with this, let's say in 5, 6, 10 years. And and then the shortage is, we don't have enough seats in the West Zone. And if we don't address it now, then we inevitably will be leaving that for someone else to figure out down the road. And at the end of the day, that's not what's best for students. So if we can have this conversation and really figure out a plan, I'd love to hear what the superintendent, I know that, and the staff is thinking about that, but like I said, I would hate to leave a legacy of what we're dealing with the East Zone now, that happens in the West Zone.
Yeah, if I may, first of all, just thank you for surfacing the issue, and I'm sure Dr. Malloy over there is quaking, knowing that there are certainly needs that we regretfully have to put on the unmet need in the column. Those are conversations that we do have as a staff. Everything that you've mentioned is important, no doubt about it. I mean, we want to make sure we take care of the East Zone, which has absolutely had explosive growth. And many of us were on the cabinet where we saw that, and there just were not enough dollars to be fast enough to be able to address that. We do not want that to happen in the West Zone. So those are certainly things that we will continue to talk about as a team, so that we are making as much of a dent into the unmet needs as possible. I just want to clarify with our team, HVAC reduction of capital projects doesn't mean elimination of those projects, it means a reduction. So I don't want anybody walking away thinking we're not cognizant of the fact that we live in Southwest Florida and is extremely warm in the summers. So we want to make sure that we underscore that. So your point is really well taken. We want to make sure we accommodate the growth in all areas of our county. And we also want to be really using data to drive those decisions. So that'll be the continuation of the conversation we'll have with planning and with our team. So yes, thank you. It's on our radar.
Mrs. Giovanelli, then
One
Mr.
more
Rill.
question, and just to add to that, so I think for me right now, that's why the site selection committee is important, is because the first thing we have to do is start recognizing the land, and do we have that property available to build the unmet needs even? If we don't have it, then now that's the struggle. And I trust that you're working on that, I'm sure, but are identifying the property that's needed and identifying where we can put the schools.
Yes.
Where the need is and where the school is doesn't always work in our favor, where we get the property at.
Yes,
you know.
yes, I can assure you that our planning department has that definitely on their radar.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ribble?
Yeah, Mr. Fisher, you mentioned what Polk County was doing with leasebacks, and I think that's a whole avenue and area we really need to take a look at. I mean, we got to start getting into some joint ventures and getting some folks to share the pain with us for capital. And there's a lot of opportunities out there where you just have to sit down with some of these folks and ask them what they have on their mind and how can they partner with us and save ourselves a ton of money. And at the end of the day, everyone shares the pain. I think the football field in the village of Estero is a great example on that campus. They got a $2 million plus football field plus other improvements to the campus, and the village of Estero paid for it, not the school district. So we need to take a look at some of these things and think outside the box.
Was there anyone else? Okay. Thank you for that, board members and Superintendent Carr. Again, just a discussion. I was not expecting any kind of solution. I know it's not easy. I just wanted to at least get some of the discussion continuing on that, on those things. I was actually going to bring up what Mr. Ribble said about Estero. I think it's fantastic partnership with that city. I look forward to perhaps having some future partnerships like that throughout this county. I think it would be a fantastic thing. So that is all I have at the moment. So we're going to move on now. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. We're going to move on to item number 10, public comment. I will turn that over to Attorney Debray Bruno to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can have 1 moment, please. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda. If you completed a public comment card, please provide it to staff. Public comment will be held at the podium in the center aisle and in the front. Please be advised that the board will not respond during public comment to remarks made by speakers. Abusive language defined as swearing, use of profanity, or name-calling is prohibited. Speakers who fail to follow proper decorum in the chambers will be ruled out of order. Any speaker continuing with such remarks will be required to relinquish the microphone per Board Policy 0169.1 and may be removed from the chambers. There will be one warning. Per Board Policy 0169.1, the time per speaker is 3 minutes. Once your time has elapsed, the microphone will automatically shut off. Please state your name when you approach the microphone. Mr. Chairman, there's 3 plus 1, I believe, that wants to speak to the board during this workshop.
Okay, thank you, Madam Attorney. Please make sure you've completed a public comment card if you intend to provide public comment. The card is a public record identifying those who speak and providing contact information to the staff for follow-up. The cards are located with the staff. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board that has not filled out a public comment card?
I'm working on it.
Yes, ma'am. So outside of that, I just want to remind our public speakers that workshop comment is based on items on the agenda. It's not like public comment in the action meeting. So whenever you're ready to start public comment, Attorney Bree Bruno, please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will the following individuals please line up? Michael Andoisha, Marge Cox, Madeline Stewart.
My name is Mike Andosha. I am a resident in the county, former teacher. Compensation is complicated, according to the Phase 2 slides. From a teacher's perspective, having been a teacher for 30 years, it's not that complicated. Am I making enough money? Am I getting paid enough to make ends meet? Am I getting paid enough as a well-educated professional that I am so that I can have a professional lifestyle? Can I guarantee that next year, with my increased experience, that I'm going to be better off than I was this year, and then better off the year after, and then better off the year after that? These are not complicated questions from a teacher's point of view. They're immensely complicated in a county that it pays less than the state average in the lowest paying state. So until you're ready to address that, you can put whatever you want on your PowerPoint slides. Everything else from a teacher's point of view is meaningless. Because the next question is, can I do better somewhere else? And invariably the answer to that question in Lee County is, yeah, I can. I can take my skill set and I can go somewhere else and do much better. And I talk to teachers. Teachers reach out to me. Many are doing exactly that or waiting the opportunity to do exactly that. So, I look and I saw your Phase 2 plan, and somehow the teacher's perspective was conspicuously missing. It's like we're talking around the needs of the teachers rather than actually talking to the teachers about what they need. And I see what I'm going to call propaganda that is on social media that's put out by the district or to the news media. And I'm talking to the teachers who are actually living it, and I can tell you what, it's not a Venn diagram, it's 2 circles. There's 2 different worlds going on here. You're losing your teachers. I have been a teacher for 30 years. More than half of that was right here in Lee County. And I can tell you, I've never seen teacher morale as low as it is right now. So, you bring up, I got to be honest, and I hope I'm wrong about this. I got 17 seconds, so I hope I'm wrong. But I'm looking at this open range stuff that you're presenting in your Phase 2, and it reminds me of the bill of goods that was sold to the teachers with regard to the career ladder and how that was sold to them. There's a deficit.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up, sir.
Kathy Nguyen, thank you for lining up.
Hello, I'm Marge Cox. I'm a retired educator. I live in Bonita Springs. In September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, and if we're looking at a way to make connections within the communities and to be able to share the good news from Lee County schools in other places, our public libraries are an amazing place. I sent you an email last night, and I brought paperwork today that reflects that says how to get a public library card if you don't have one. I hope you do, but...
Ma'am, I just want to make sure this is related to an agenda item. It needs to be based on...
Okay. We were talking about education for kids. Reading is a part of that, I would assume.
We weren't directly, so.
So Ms. Cox, it really has to be very specific to what was discussed today on the various agenda items. So there was nothing with regards to library or reading or anything like that that was presented today on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madeline Stewart, good afternoon. First of all, I think you've just heard a fabulous case for the need for continued capital investment in our schools. And I hope that I'm glad that you brought up the half-penny tax. We know that it sunsets in 2028, but what is the timeline for getting the referendum on the ballot so that the community can make the decision about the half-penny tax, because that's who makes the final decision, as I understand it? And secondly, my suggestion, I would say, I think partnerships sound wonderful. You have to look at a lot of different funding sources, but what about the millage? As we know, Collier County, this is how Collier can pay their teachers more money. They are able to use part of the millage for teacher salaries, and we don't have that ability. We have to find a way to pay our teachers a living, fair wage. Otherwise, we're not going to be an A-plus school district. The second thing I just want to say is I commend the decision to delay your discussion of the additions to Policy 2522, which, as you know, is challenges to adoption or use of instructional library materials. You delayed the discussion because the additions that were proposed did not comport with Judge Carlos Mendoza's August 13th ruling. Now, you know the law in question also includes students' constitutional rights to access educational materials.
Dr. Stewart, so we did not talk about that policy today. That policy was not brought before the board. It was removed. It will come at a later time. So I think the comment is probably best for that time period when the policy is coming forward, because it's not before the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy Wynn. I understand later today you plan to finalize the 25-26 budget. As someone whose prevention specialist position was eliminated.
Ms. Wynn?
Yes.
Please pause for a second. I just want to confer with legal counsel. Again, we're not the budget was not on the agenda today. So there is public comment during the 5:05 p.m. meeting.
Okay. I already have one written for that.
Okay.
Well, I will talk then a little bit about something else, about the teacher pay.
Okay, as long as it's
Thank
related
you.
to the agenda.
All right. So following what Michael was talking about with teacher pay, he is correct in the sense that, you know, we do need to earn a living wage. I stand before you as a teacher who is not teaching for money. Luckily, I'm able to support myself from my years and years of work. And I'm begging to come back to the district to teach. But a lot of teachers that I'm aware of are doing the opposite, just as he said, finding a district, if you live in, I had a friend who lived in Island Park. He went to Naples to teach. I have a friend that lives in North Fort Myers. They go to Charlotte County to teach. It does need to be addressed. And the fact that you do have, teachers that were getting highly effective and so on, evaluations, to have their jobs taken away when they provided a valuable service, that's not really good either. So you're lacking in some areas as far as finding out, what is a living wage? Maybe you all aren't aware. I know, like I said, I'm fortunate that I don't live paycheck to paycheck and never have. But many people do. And so, rearranging things, like he said, every year you want to make more because the cost of living is higher. So please, if you want to retain the teachers you have, you need to, look at that stronger. And when you have teachers that love their jobs, you should not eliminate their positions unless they have somehow erred in some way with the district. Thank you.
That concludes public comment, but I just want to clarify for members of the public so we understand the rules for the workshop. This is coming from 0169.1, which explicitly states that speakers may only address an item on the workshop meeting agenda, which is different than the action meeting, which you can talk about anything that deals with the operation of the school district. And obviously at the budget hearing, you can speak about budget. So I just want to make sure that we understand where this rule is coming from, and then as we're processing our comments, that it is aligned with board policy with regards to workshop and what can be discussed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. I was going to follow up at that, and that's what I addressed at the beginning before public comment. We do want to hear from all of you. We appreciate it, but it's my job as chair, just as the rest of the board, to follow our policy. So I appreciate it when they gave that. No interruption of the meeting, please. Warning. Okay. We're going to move on next onto the agenda. With Mrs. Chaviano.
I will save it for the action meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Ribble.
Same action meeting.
I will reserve my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Am I going to be the only one that talks now? Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to quick couple updates just based on some of the Activities Association. Dr. Carlin and I have attended the recent Foundation for Lee County Schools, and I want to congratulate new board chair, Noel Branning, and thank Mike Wickich for his service for that. Those are both fantastic people that are really helping to try to bridge any gap and support us in the community as a school district. So I want to thank them. Horizon Council I attended as well with Dr. Carlin. We had some great meetings and discussions. One was on, I believe, it was the Boys and Girls Club, of what they're doing in the community and, assisting some of our students, especially in need, in providing places, as well as interesting presentation on hurricane resiliency. So VAB, we selected, and our new fee structure that petitions will go up from $15 to $30. The original suggestion was $50. We set it as $30 as an interim, so value adjustment board, so whenever anyone's making an application for that. And Commissioner Pendergrass has been named chair of that, and I'm the vice chair of that. So update as well on Drug Free Coalition. I was not able to go today, but they did want me to thank everyone. They've had some fantastic new opportunities for partnerships within this district, and I want to thank the board and the superintendent for that. So now on to Attorney Bruno.
No comments. Thank you.
Superintendent Carlin.
And like you, Chair Fisher, just a few quick comments. First of all, the board did have a question about a ribbon cutting for Veterans Park and Teal Middle School. That will be held in December on a date to be determined, so we'll get that on your calendars as soon as possible. I did have the opportunity to tour the Real-Time Intelligence Center and the school threat enforcement team located at the Lee County Sheriff's Office headquarters. It is absolutely both of those working in tandem to help keep our schools safe. Just so a real shout out to the team at Lee County Sheriff's Office and to our sheriff for continuing to support our schools in that way. Also, a big thank you to Senator Martin Recently, we had the opportunity to meet Ms. Houlihan through Government Relations, myself, and our transportation leadership team, Mr. Newland, Mr. McKinney, and the team, just really to take a look at our transportation processes. And just a big shout out to him because he is willing to help us smooth through any challenges that might come about as a result of legislation. And so really appreciate Senator Martin jumping in there and being of service to us, and we just really appreciate that. Beginning of the year report, certainly we want to just talk real quickly about bus transportation. Thank you for mentioning that earlier today. We continue to experience a few little bumps here and there. However, the percentages of on-time arrivals in the morning continue to improve, but we will not be satisfied until we have 100% on-time delivery and 100% on-time pickup. And that is what transportation is striving to do as they work through those bumps. So just a real shout out to transportation, and just a shout out also to HR. They continue to partner with our principals. As of today, we have 33 teacher vacancies. Remember, we do have teachers that have stepped into those roles. We do not expect our substitute teachers to do that. Those are folks that are actually certified on the teams at our individual schools, and so they are stepping in and helping with that. And lastly, I did have a meeting recently with our county manager, Dave Harner. He has offered apprenticeships to our students, so we are getting that up and running, and Mr. Matthews will be following up with the county this week to get those apprenticeships up and running for our high school students. So always looking to our community to help us, and just a big shout out to our county government for stepping up and being the latest group to assist us with getting kids internships. So with that, those are all my comments, and I'll reserve the rest for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Future meetings, we'll have a budget meeting today at 5:05 in these chambers, followed by our school board action meeting at 6 o'clock. At this point, having no other business to come before this board and seeing no objection, this meeting is hereby adjourned, and the time is 4:15.